Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Public Works for today, Monday, September 26, 2016.
Commissioner Repenning, James, Davis, and Jacinto are present. President James, we have a quorum. May we start with Bureau introductions, please, starting with Bureau of Sanitation.
Good morning, Alex Hello, LA Sanitation.
Saad Al-Najjar, Bureau of Street Lighting.
Good morning, Sherman Torres, Bureau of Street Services.
Good morning, Chris Smith, Bureau of Contract Administration.
Good morning, Julie Souter, Bureau of Engineering.
Good morning, Adina Hopenstan, Office of the City Attorney.
Fernando Campos, Executive Officer. President James, we received speaker cards under general public comment. We do not have any speakers under the Neighborhood Council commentary, and we did receive a series of speaker cards for item number 2 for today's agenda.
Okay, thank you. We'll close the Neighborhood Council category of commentary. An administrative item, agenda item number 3, specifications submitted for board adoption and authorization to advertise for the invitation of bids in Council District 15 for the Century Boulevard Extension, Grape Street to Alameda, estimate $14,954,482. Bid receipt date of Wednesday, November 9th, 2016. Is there a second to my motion that we adopt agenda item number 3 forthwith? By Commissioner Repenning. Any objection? Without objection, we will do so. Agenda item number 1. Bureau of Street Lighting, bid rejection and re-advertisement, street lighting pole painting project, Unit 6. Reject all bids submitted for the project and re-advertise for bids to be received on November 16th, 2016, and forward a copy of the report to affected council district offices. Mr. Al-Najjar.
Mr. President, Fernando Campos, Executive Officer, we did receive a speaker cards just right now for item number 1 after you had heard it. It's your discretion to consider the item.
Go ahead, Mr. Al-Najjar.
Good morning, Mr. President. Good morning. The pole painting program has been going on for a few years. This specific one, we advertised. I happen to be the designer for this project and did the estimates with careful consideration. We were receiving only 2 bids at this time. One is 100% higher than our estimate. Our estimate was $304,350. The lowest bidder came at $619,790. The second highest came at $791. We had a pre-bid meeting, mandatory pre-bid meeting with 10 bidders. However, it happened during the week in which there was a lot of fires going on. So a lot of our regular bidders couldn't attend because they were part of the evacuation. And that's why we had received only 2 bids.
Okay, and Mr. Spindler, you have a card on number 2, or I'm sorry, on number 1. You've listed some initials here, but I saw you turn in the card. Mr. Spindler on number 1. I can't read the...
Well, you can read it. So anyway, number 1, bid rejection.
You really can't, but go ahead.
Really? Oh, how shameful. So I note today a lot of people are here, so that can only mean 2 things. One, you're going to be resigning or you've done something wrong. Anyway, so now, street lighting pole painting project. Really? Really? You have to have a bid out to paint the poles on the street lights. Isn't that part of the maintenance districts and maintenance? So once again, as I mentioned in our lovely field meeting Wednesday night, apparently you have a supply in excess of funds that you're charging all the taxpayers for your lighting districts. You got all this extra cash on your hands. So now you're trying to allocate money to do stupid things like this, but you had to rebid it and re-advertise it. Now, what happens when that happens? Well, what usually happens is the winning bidder is not a campaign donor to the city. So then they think something's wrong, they go to the FBI, and you pull all the bids back and re-advertise it. That's just the way it goes. It's just the reality of what this board has turned into. 5 commissioners, we only got 4. So whatever's happening, you're going to take public comment last. Why? Because you don't want everybody to hear what I'm going to say. So just be sure that on the next item, treat everybody fairly, because you got some really wealthy people in the room today, and you fuck this up, you're going to be in the courts in the next 10 years, and you don't want to be in the courts. So congratulations on item 1.
2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Spindler. Any question for Mr. Almajad on the rejection of the bids? Commissioner Jacinto?
Thank you, President James. Do we anticipate more bidders coming? Obviously, that's why we're rebidding, to ensure there's more than 2 bidders coming in.
Yes, exactly.
Very good.
And we've done a great outreach through LA Bavin, but again, it's the fire that caused the people not attending the mandatory pre-bid meeting.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you. Commissioner Penning?
How many poles are we painting with this program?
This one is 1,583.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further? Is there a motion on number 1 by Commissioner Jacinto, seconded by Commissioner Penning? Any objection? Without objection, we'll adopt agenda item number 1. Any issue sending number 1 forthwith? We'll send number 1 forthwith. On one more item, housekeeping, is there a second to my motion that we, do we have any, is there a second to my motion that we approve the meeting minutes from Wednesday of September 7th, 2016 by Commissioner Penning? Any objection? Without objection, we'll approve the meeting minutes from the meeting of Wednesday, September 7th, 2016. For the Bureau representatives that are not related to the trash franchise hearing today, unless you just want to stay for the hearing, we'll release you all at this time, since agenda item number 2 is the only agenda item that we have left. But for the Bureau of Sanitation, we'll release the Bureau representatives from the other bureaus that are here this morning. Agenda item number 2. Bureau of Sanitation and Bureau of Contract Administration. Recommending that the board approve and forward this report with transmittals to the mayor and city council, with the request that the Board of Public Works be authorized to execute a personal services contract for the Zero Waste Exclusive Franchise System for commercial and multifamily solid waste collection and handling with the following 7 firms. Large firms, or rather large zones. Number 1, Arachelian Enterprises Incorporated, doing business as Athens Services. Number 2, Consolidated Disposal Service, LLC, Republic Services or Republic. Number 3, Universal Waste Systems Incorporated. And number 4, USA Waste of California, doing business as Waste Management. Those are for the large zones. For the small zones, number 5, CalMet Services Incorporated. Number 6, NASA Services Incorporated. And number 7, Ware Disposal Incorporated. And secondly, upon the mayor's and council's authorization, myself or 2 members of the board will execute the contract. Number 3, return the executed contract to the Bureau of Sanitation for further processing. For pickup, contact Dan Myers of Solid Resources Commercial Franchise Division at 213-485-3774, or Quinita Anderson at Sanitation at 213-485-4246. Fourthly, recommend that the City Council find it is in the city's best interest to award one of the exclusive franchise contracts for commercial and multifamily solid waste collection and handling to Republic, an Arizona-based company, for the reasons outlined in the board report. And finally, 5, request the city attorney, in collaboration with the Bureau of Sanitation, to draft an ordinance creating a special fund for the zero waste Los Angeles revenues, excluding AB 939 fees. Mr. Zaldivar, we will start with you. And by the way, before we get started, let me just go over some of the ground rules for the hearing this morning. So I have divided the speakers' cards up into 2 different categories. Representatives for one of the proposed contractors, and those that are not an official representative of one of the proposed contractors. The reason I've done that is as follows. Typically, in the Board of Public Works, when we have an actual party to the proceeding, I don't put a time limit at all on the representatives or the parties themselves. That's not practical for today. So for the speakers that are representatives of one of the 7 proposed contractors, they'll be limited to 3 minutes each. And for the other speakers that are not representatives of one of the actual proposed contracting parties, they'll have 2 minutes each. We just don't have time to have an open clock for the actual parties themselves as we normally like to do here. So with that, we'll start with Mr. Zaldivar and hear the Bureau of Sanitation's presentation. Then we'll go to the speaker cards because of issues that may arise during the speakers that we want to address in rebuttal. Mr. Zaldivar, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. Good morning, President James. Good morning, commissioners. Good morning, representatives, including our very own representative, whom I could not find quite yet until I looked back here. Good morning, Alex. I'm Enrique Zaldivar. I'm the general manager of LA Sanitation. It has been nearly 6 years to the date since the city began its formal quest for a more effective system of providing solid waste collection services in the private sector while keeping pace with the advancement in environmental and sustainability policies, starting with policies championed right here in our very own city, but also legislative policy at the regional and state level, and in some cases, at the federal level. One of the benefits of now being a long-tenured environmental management practitioner with over 30 years in this great city, 9 of them as general manager of LA San, is that I have witnessed some transformational events in the evolution of best practices and policy in the solid waste management field. The California Waste Management Act of 1989, better known as AB 939, demarcates a generational turning point in which the policy and practice of choice of the previous several decades, landfilling, was turned on its head as the state's environmental vision widened to not only include the protection of public health, but to also include the conservation, preservation, and recovery of natural resources. The city and its residents responded to the new policy paradigm by adopting a new culture, the now well-established cultural notion of the 3 R's: reduce, reuse, and recycle. One that has led us to achieve the highest recycling rate among large cities in the country at 76.4%. Yet, we have come to recognize that our sole pursuit of our environmental goals in the solid waste industry must in itself not become an environmental liability by driving unnecessarily extra miles, emitting unnecessary extra pollutants like particulate matter and compounds of nitrogen and sulfur. Nor must this environmental pursuit be a veil for keeping substandard and at times perhaps unsafe working conditions for those whose jobs and labor make it all possible for us all to achieve our environmental goals. By signing into law the Zero Waste LA exclusive franchise system in April of 2014, Mayor Garcetti and the City Council set in effect a transformational policy that recognizes and addresses the need for an efficient, responsive, and responsible organizational service structure that will enable the city to keep pace with the evolution of environmental policy at all levels, oftentimes spurred by advances in science and technology. Mayor Garcetti's sustainability plan is a great compendium and a comprehensive overview of the city's environmental goals most applicable to this initiative. Zero waste by 2025, which means a 90% diversion from landfills by 2025. And the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions to 20% below 1990 levels. We have embarked on a conversion to clean fuel natural gas for all of the city's solid waste trucks, both for LA San and now the franchisees to be. Yet we know that technology will continue to advance, as we are now talking about near zero clean fuel natural gas engines, just as we bridge into the next generational leap with fully electric cars, fully electric trucks. Let's hope still with a human driver in them, though. From the time this commission began the formal selection process of the franchisees by authorizing the release of the request for proposals in June of 2014, LA San staff and our technical consultant, CH2M, have been diligently dedicating countless hours to thoroughly, impartially, and competently review and evaluate the proposals of the 15 companies who submitted them. Today is the culmination of that process as we present to you the 7 companies we recommend to be franchisees and our partners in achieving the city's environmental goals of today. The partners who will join us in meeting the regulatory challenges of tomorrow as our state and our nation and our city best grapple with the effects of climate change. And most importantly, these are the 7 companies that we confidently recommend to provide excellent, reliable, 21st century based service at a fair and reasonable price to both their commercial and multifamily customers in the city. I ask for your support of our recommendations. Dan Myers of my staff will now present to you the basis for our recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zaldivar. Mr. Myers.
Good morning. My name is Dan Myers, with the Division Manager of the Solid Resources Commercial Franchise Division. Very, very excited about being here today. And Enrique spoke of a 6-year process, very long process that I've had the benefits of being a part of throughout the entire thing. I would like to take this opportunity to recognize this board, the mayor's office, and the city council, and all their support along the way to pave the path that has brought us here today. Special recognition to Enrique Zaldivar, our director, assistant director, Alex Halou, for all their support and assistance throughout. I'd like to especially recognize and thank Karen Coca, the division manager of the Solid Resources Citywide Recycling Division. Without her help, knowledge, and support, we would not be here today. I have unfortunately a very long presentation. It's been a very long process. I think it's very important that we really highlight not only how we've gotten here, but what we have to look forward to throughout this process. I'll begin with some of the background of the current waste hauler collection system currently in place today. Today we have private waste haulers that operate under a permit system. These private waste haulers collect from both multifamily and commercial sectors. They collect all the waste that is not collected by the Bureau of LA San. The permit system does not have requirements. It doesn't have the requirements necessary to meet our recycling, clean fuel vehicle requirements, our customer service standards, or other environmental benefits. There are approximately 144 waste haulers collecting from commercial and multifamily establishments, but only 31 of those regularly collect commercial waste or waste from these commercial establishments. Of those, the top 15 haulers collect from 99% of the businesses in LA. Why is Zero Waste LA needed? Based on the research completed by LA San and our independent consultants, it was determined that there's a number of issues and limitations with the current waste hauling system. The city is unable to meet its zero waste goals for reducing the amount of waste in landfill. It does not provide the high level of customer service that we expect to be provided to all of our customers. And as I spoke, there is no requirements for clean fuel vehicles, the vehicles that Enrique spoke of, the next generation, thus negatively impacting air quality in the region. The system does not promote efficient routing. At any given time, you can have multiple refuse collection trucks driving down the same city street, collecting from businesses located directly adjacent to each other. And lastly, there's insufficient material processing facilities to process the amount of material necessary to meet our zero waste goals. LA San has determined that you cannot meet the city's environmental goals through the current system. What is Zero Waste LA? As Enrique had mentioned, Zero Waste LA is the new public-private partnership that establishes a new waste and recycling system for all businesses, commercial and multifamily in the city. For the first time, no matter if you are a business, if you're a multifamily, if you're a single family, it won't matter who services you. Everybody will be offered blue bin and green bin for recycling throughout the city uniformly. And just again to highlight, the Zero Waste LA does not include the accounts that LA San currently collects from. How do we get here? I spoke of the long 6-year process began when Councilmember Koretz and Weezar introduced a motion directing LA San to explore the benefits of a commercial waste hauling system, commercial franchise system. Then Council President Eric Garcetti established an ad hoc committee on waste and recycling. In 2011, LA San issued a 5-year notice to all the waste haulers operating in the city at that time, as required by the state when a jurisdiction transitions from an open market system to a franchise system. In April 2014, the mayor and city council approved the Zero Waste LA ordinance and supporting EIR. Quickly followed in June of 2014 when this board approved the release of the Zero Waste LA RFP, which brings us to today, requesting the board consider LA San's recommendations. Community outreach and involvement. LA San has involved the community to gather their input and keep stakeholders informed throughout the 6-year process. We've held over 25 stakeholder workshops throughout the process. We held one workshop solely dedicated to the discussion and the development of the 11 franchise zones that were ultimately approved by City Council. We have held a number of waste hauler meetings. We've conducted surveys of waste haulers. We've held an excess of 10 council committee meetings and 5 council meetings, multiple meetings before this board, as well as keeping the stakeholders engaged in the process through direct mailing of surveys and keeping online surveys available throughout the process. Goals of the Zero Waste LA. To address the issues and the limitations of the existing system, the mayor and city council approved a number of goals for the Zero Waste LA system as detailed in the approved franchise implementation plan. These goals include meeting the city's zero waste goals of reducing landfill disposal. What this means, when Enrique spoke of meeting our zero waste goals, 90% diversion by 2025, we get there by reducing the amount of material landfilled annually by 1 million tons. It's a monumental goal, one that we will achieve through the franchise. Also, the goals include the ability to meet the state requirements for landfill reduction and mandatory recycling. The state has passed a number of legislations requiring businesses to recycle, they'll be able to meet that through the franchise system. A couple other goals was to improve health and safety of solid waste workers, to improve the efficiency of the solid waste system, and of course to improve the air quality by requiring clean fuel vehicles, and to provide the highest level of customer service. Some additional RFP requirements that were included. As approved by the City Zero Waste LA franchise ordinance, LA San established 11 separate franchise zones. These zones were established using the existing LA San waste boundaries, which were further delineated by using major geographical boundaries such as freeways and major streets. As part of the community outreach, again, that I spoke of, the map, the 11 zones, was vetted through a community meeting where we allowed all community input on the establishment of the zones. The RFP allowed haulers to propose on all or multiple zones. The RFP stipulated that no one proposer could be awarded more than 49% of the accounts in the system. Some of the additional requirements in the RFP. One of the things that we heard when we were developing the franchise was that only the largest of the waste haulers would be able to be available for award of contract. Smaller waste hauling companies were concerned that they didn't have the sufficient infrastructure and could be priced out of competitive bidding by not owning infrastructure and competing with those that did own that infrastructure. To encourage diversity in proposals and proposers, including the size of the companies that compete in the RFP process. The ordinance and RFP designated 3 zones as zones that could only be awarded singularly. That means they couldn't be bundled with any other zone. For the rest of this presentation, I'll refer to those zones as small zones. The other 8 I'll refer to as large zones. In addition, the zones were established around the city's Central LA recycling transfer station. All proposers were required to utilize this transfer station. By doing this, we allowed for a level playing field amongst all proposers for these small zones. Proposals. LA San received proposals from 15 separate companies, as shown here. As discussed earlier, all proposers could have proposed on all 11 zones. However, no one proposer did. Proposers, some proposed on small zones only, some proposed on large zones, some proposed on both. We received proposals from both local waste hauling firms and large multinational firms. I'd like to highlight that all 15 proposals were evaluated. The RFP and evaluation. Given the size and the scope of the new franchise system, we knew that evaluations could not be an afterthought. We began preparing for evaluations as we were developing the RFP. The structure of the RFP supported the evaluations. There were 5 separate weighting categories detailed in the RFP, and each assigned a number of points, totaling 100 points. Qualifications for 10 points, customer service in transition, 25 points, service plan, 20 points, diversion planning and innovations, 25, and finally cost at 20. Evaluation procedures. The method of evaluation was the most extensive and exhaustive process ever undertook for a franchise system. Definitely the most extensive process I have ever been involved in. There were separate teams established for each of the scoring criteria, one for qualifications, customer service, service plan, diversion, and another for cost. The teams ranged in size from 4 to 6 members, and they were made up of both city and private sector consultants. The consultants provided research and technical expertise. However, they were not involved in the scoring process. The team members all agreed to confidentiality throughout the process. I'd like to take the moment right now, a lot of the team members that participated in this process, and I'll get in a minute how long that process was, I'd like to have them stand and recognize them for all of their hard work, please. All you involved. I'm very proud of the teams and all the team members for all of their hard work. Evaluation procedures. The evaluation teams were essentially sequestered throughout the entire evaluation process. Team members were not allowed to discuss evaluations with other team members. Team members could not discuss the evaluations with their own team members except as a group. They took their roles and responsibilities very seriously and the confidentiality they agreed to. They went as far as checking out and checking in their evaluation books every single day and weren't allowed and did not remove the material from the office. To expedite the process, the teams did meet concurrently but separate. They typically met twice a week as a group, and they weren't meeting as a group. They were sitting at their desk reviewing proposal materials. Following the detailed proposal evaluations, the team members did attend nearly a month-long session of proposer interviews. During the evaluation process, LA Stan provided multiple clarification opportunities to proposers. We issued 3 separate requests for clarifications, very detailed, allowing the proposers to clarify multiple components of their proposals. And all proposers had the opportunity to clarify their proposals during the interview process. Evaluation scoring. All the evaluations that were conducted resulted in a score for each proposer in each category. Each team was given a unique set of evaluation tools developed specifically for their evaluation criteria. The scoring tool was very detailed. It contained subcategories for each category. For example, the service plan had subcategories for collection services, routing, and facilities, which were then further broken down into additional subcategories. In total, there were over 70 subcategories that were evaluated in all. The teams were not allowed to see or had access to scoring from other teams throughout the evaluation process, and the scores were only made available to the team leads until they were finalized. I'd like to highlight just the magnitude of the evaluation process. There were over 70 subcategories spread over the 5 categories for the 15 separate proposals. That equals 1,000 separate discussions that were held during the evaluation process. As I spoke of, we had over 24 members on our evaluation teams that met over 4 months straight throughout the process. This is equivalent to 16,000 hours of evaluations. If a single person was in charge of the evaluation, this is over 7.5 years of evaluations that took place in this process. Scoring and ranking. After the team scores were finalized, the 5 separate scoring categories for each proposal was combined into a single score. After scoring, all the proposals were ranked by 2 categories: those that proposed on small zones and those that proposed on large zones. If a proposer proposed on both small and large, they were placed on both rankings. As shown here is a graph comparing all the scores from 0 to 100 of the 10 proposals on the small zones. Shown here is a graph comparing the scores from 0 to 100 of the 12 proposers that proposed on the large zones. The shortlisting process. After scoring and ranking their proposals, the next step in the process was to identify the initial proposals to move on to negotiations. LA San started with establishing the short list for the small zones. As you recall, the small zones could not be bundled with any other zone. LA San chose the top 3 ranked proposers, NASA, UWS, and UPW, to proceed into the negotiation process. After shortlisting of the small zones, we moved to the large zones. Unlike the small zones, the large zones could be bundled into multiple awards. We determined that for the initial shortlisting process and for the purpose of negotiations, we would base the initial shortlisting on a 2-zone bundle. As I mentioned earlier, one of the goals of the new franchise system is to establish the necessary infrastructure to process the 1 million tons of material annually to be removed from the system. New and improved facilities require significant infrastructure to make them financially feasible and requiring for the amount of material to be processed. A 2-zone bundle contained the sufficient amount of material to support the new infrastructure while minimizing the impacts on rates. Continue with the shortlisting process. Moving forward with a 2-zone bundle, we required 4 proposals to service the 8 zones. LA San identified 4 top-ranked proposers to begin negotiations: Athens, Republic, Waste Management, and Recology, remembering that NASA was shortlisted for a small zone. The negotiation process. The 7 shortlisted proposals were brought into the negotiation process. As with the evaluation process, negotiations were extensive and exhaustive and occurred over a 12-month period. As you can imagine, negotiating with 7 proposals required a significant amount of resources. In order to manage these negotiations, LA San developed 2 negotiation teams, one for the small zones, one for the large zones. The teams, again, consisted of both city staff and private sector experts, but the lead negotiators were the same for both teams. All negotiations were kept confidential throughout the process. LA San did not discuss negotiations from one proposer with another, and LA San did not discuss negotiations, in fact, with anybody outside the negotiation process. But as with negotiations, things change. During the negotiation process, it was determined that Recology and LA San could not come to terms on some key issues, on key aspects of the contracts. As a result of this, Recology voluntarily withdrew from the process. This happened in March of 2016. With the withdrawal of Recology, 2 large zones became available. LA San, again, went back to the ranking list for the large zones, and LA San offered NASA the option to move into one of the large zones vacated by Recology. NASA, however, chose to stay in the downtown zone, the zone that was the subject of negotiations at that time, thus requiring us to revisit the ranking. With that, with NASA electing to stay in their zone, we then offered the zone to UWS, the next highest ranked proposer. UWS accepted the move. Based upon their proposals, LA San determined that the remaining proposers were not suited for a large zone. After a realignment of zones, the remaining large zone was the harbor, and that zone was offered to Athens. Athens is the highest ranked proposer, and during the negotiation process, offered to make extensive infrastructure improvements in the harbor area. As a result, negotiations for the large zones continued with Athens, Republic, Waste Management, and UWS. With the withdrawal of Recology, there was an impact on small zones. With UWS moving to a large zone, and given that it cannot be bundled with a small zone, it created an additional zone in the small zone areas. LA San again returned to the ranking list for the small zones and brought Ware into negotiations. Not long after Recology withdrew through the process, it was found that LA San could not come to terms with UPW. As a result, UPW also voluntarily withdrew their proposal from the process. As a result, this created an additional zone, additional opportunity for a small zone. LA San returned to the ranking list for small zones and offered CalMat the opportunity into negotiations. CalMat accepted. Negotiations for the small zones continued with NASA, Ware, Disposal, and CalMat. Recommended zone awards. The zone or zones LA San recommended awarding to each proposer was based upon a number of factors. First was the highest ranked proposer received the highest number of accounts within the zones that they were awarded. In addition to this, the proximity to and the availability of new infrastructure was also factors in the award of zones. I'll explain this further on the next slide. LA San recommends award to NASA for the downtown zone, Ware for the southeast zone, and CalMat for the east downtown zone. The recommended awards for the small zones were primarily based upon the ranking of the proposals. But just to highlight, although the downtown zone appears to have less accounts than the southeast, that doesn't account for the amount and the magnitude of all the construction and activity taking place in the downtown area. For the large zones, as you can see, the proposer with the highest ranked received also the largest number of accounts. But in addition to ranking, the proposer's existing or proposed infrastructure played a factor into which zones they were recommended for award. For example, Athens is placed in the West LA North Central Zone because it has facilities and will move material to the east and material to the north to their North Valley recycling facility. They also, again, agreed to investing significant infrastructure in the harbor area. As a result, LA San recommends award to Athens for West LA, North Central, and Harbor, Republic for Northeast Valley and South LA, Waste Management for West LA and Southeast Valley zones, and UWS the Northeast zone. I'd now like to move to some of the highlights of what's in the franchise contracts. As I spoke earlier, the city will reach its zero waste goals through the franchise system. The franchisees are required through the contract to reduce landfill disposal by 1 million tons annually by the year 2025. They'll accomplish this through a myriad of programs as set forth in the Zero Waste LA franchise contracts. These include the fact that all customers will receive a blue bin as part of their basic level of service. Green bins for recycling of organics that include green waste and food waste will also be offered to all customers at a reasonable cost. The franchise waste haulers will be required to partner with food rescue and reuse organizations. as well as mandatory outreach and education training for all customers throughout the term of the contract. And again, some of the ways that the Zero Waste LA differs from other franchise contracts. When we talk about outreach and education, each franchise hauler is required to maintain throughout the term of their contract a certain number of field representatives whose sole job it is to outreach and work with their customers to increase recycling to meet our zero waste goals. This will be supported by monthly disposal reporting required from each waste hauler, each franchised hauler. Further supported by numeric landfill reduction targets. So again, separates us from a lot of different franchise contracts is we do not require a diversion rate that's calculated. What we require, and there's certain check-ins throughout the franchise contracts where we detail how many tons of material they need to reduce disposal by. And those are set in contracts. And for not meeting those goals, there's actually heavy penalties set forth in the contracts. Excellent customer experience. Customer experience, it goes beyond just customer service. It's how we interact with customers throughout the entire process. We assure this excellent customer experience really with supporting two basic concepts. The first is accountability. And this is ensured through strict contract terms for customer service standards, performance requirements, and enforceability. The second main concept that it's built on is enforceability. Excellent customer service through accountability. All contracts contain strict customer service standards, as shown here. It includes having a customer service center in every single zone that is serviced. The contracts will also contain strict performance standards. For example, there are time limits set forth in the contract to fulfill service requests. For example, if a customer calls and requests an additional pickup, there is a time limit set forth in the contract for that pickup to be made. Failure to meet that, again, it's supported through penalties. Those penalties really bring us to the last piece of accountability, which is enforcement. All customer service standards are supported by penalties, and these penalties are set forth in the contract for not meeting the requirements. This includes penalties for not meeting the implementation milestones, not providing the service, as the example I provided before, and not meeting their diversion requirements. Excellent customer service through monitoring and enforcement. The monitoring and enforcement starts with the customer interaction. The LA San Customer Care Center will be the first point of contact for all customers. This will allow us to track and monitor all customer inquiries and complaints if they have them. The IT systems from both the cities, the Customer Care Center, our contract management software will be integrated with the contractor's IT system. This will allow the city to continuously monitor all franchisees throughout the term of the contract. On a regular basis, again, as I spoke of earlier, the franchisees are required to submit detailed reports to the city that will be monitored and analyzed to ensure all terms of the contracts are being met. LA San has the sufficient staff and resources to monitor and enforce all aspects of the contracts. The city's approved staffing plan allocated Zero Waste LA staffing, as shown here, to support all aspects of the franchise implementation. I'd like to take a moment to highlight one of those, field inspections. We will have field inspection staff dedicated out in the field every single day. And their job will be to interact with customers to ensure that they are being provided the highest level of customer service, to address immediately any of their concerns, and again, to monitor the franchise haulers' provision of service in the field. Moving on to new and improved infrastructure to meet the state's requirements, meet the city and state requirements. As I mentioned earlier, in order to meet our zero waste goals, we need new and improved facilities. These contracts meet those goals. The franchise contractors have proposed using 39 facilities. 13 of those will be either new or improved facilities that will meet the city's certification requirements. This program will bring over $200 million of infrastructure improvements throughout the term of the contract to meet all the city's zero waste goals. Cleaner air. To improve air quality citywide, LA San requires new clean fuel vehicles for all solid waste collection vehicles. A total of 384 trucks are expected to be used in this program. This will result in reduced traffic on our city streets and reduction in vehicle miles traveled. Again, we'll no longer have multiple vehicles driving down the street to collect from businesses adjacent to each other. And all of this goes to improving the air quality throughout the region. Service at equitable and transparent customer rates. These contracts contain citywide maximum rates. These maximum rates were established through an exhaustive analysis of the proposal's provided cost, as well as known industry standards. Industry experts, one of which you'll hear from in just a moment, had a combined 80 years of experience in rate analysis and rate setting in the solid waste industry. It's also important to note that the rates will change predictably throughout the term of the contract. The contract contains rate methodology for any rate increases that are tied to indices. These rate increases are capped out at a maximum of 5% a year. It's important to note that over the last 5 years, these indices have returned approximately a 2% increase. I would now like to bring up Chris Bell from the CH2M team to discuss the process of how rates were negotiated. Chris?
Thank you, Dan, members of the board. I was brought on the team back in October of 2013, and prior to that, several meetings had been made, and a conceptual rate method and objectives were laid out. So, in a sense, we had a roadmap of what to follow. And the 6 objectives are laid out to you. Uniformity in rates, which we currently have right now. Equity in rates, you get what you pay for. Transparency, you need to understand how these rates are calculated. Ease of administration, again, as Dan was saying, there's regular annual updates to the rates based on known indices. Stability in the rates, that was very key given the nature of the program, and an incentive to recycle. And so when those were laid out, we came up with a cost of service approach that was based on a waste industry approach. Again, you guys are operating right now in an open market where rates are set at a cost of service competitive. So we took that in consideration. We also looked at best practices. What would it take to provide the services that the city was wanting? And then one of the key things that we took a look at was the way rates are set in a lot of California jurisdictions right now, the burden of cost recovery is put on garbage collection. And as you're moving to that zero waste, as you're reducing the waste, so that burden is putting on garbage, the rates are going to go up a lot higher than what we were looking for. So we looked at that, and we wanted to avoid what was called the death spiral. We also looked at the ability to integrate organics later on in the process as those facilities come online. So we came up with the cost of service approach that you're currently seeing right now. The cost of service is based on these 6 components, and 2 of them are, garbage collection and recycling collection, the cost of garbage disposal, the cost of processing recycling, customer service and management, and as well as the operating margin. Those 6 items are combined to come up with the current collection rates that you're going to be experiencing here in the future. As I said, we got the proposal, we submitted the cost of service approach within the proposals. We received those in October, and from October through January, the groups were focused on compiling the results from the proposers. We took those costs, we analyzed them, and we came up with a method to refine, because there was a lot of information, there's a lot of information exchanged back and forth, not only within the group on the process. As we got that information and we came up with our shortlist, we then worked with those haulers and exchanged information between the city and the shortlisted haulers to try to refine, try to get to that point of where we could say, these are the rates, these are going to be fair, equitable, they're going to provide the haulers the necessary margins, but they're also going to keep rates low and consistent. And we came up with a method, a pro forma method, to evaluate those. And that pro forma method was primarily looking at what the haulers, the cost, looking at known industry indices, looking at predictiveness of for example, how much would be collected, what would be the collection productivity, and coming up with costs. And then we took that information and we used that as a basis for the start of negotiations. And again, when we sat down with the haulers, we exchanged information because we wanted to make sure that they understood what the city was looking for as far as services, and we needed to understand what they were going to be providing, the challenges that they had. So as far as when we met with each individual hauler, we exchanged information to come up with a rate method that would be fair to the ratepayers and also fair and return a reasonable margin to the haulers. We met with the haulers again throughout this process, and as you can see right now, we've got a uniform rate that's across the city. Maximized rates for the city were finalized in January 2016. Thank you.
Well, as you can imagine, the 80 years of experience did not come from just Chris. With Chris, I'd like to recognize Nick Peely, and stand up, Nick, and Dan Pitzler, also our industry experts, experts in analyzing and setting rates in the waste industry. Thank you guys for all your hard work. Well, what's included in the Zero Waste LA rates? The service provided under Zero Waste LA is truly what sets us apart. The rates are inclusive of many services, including the blue bin collection that I spoke of. I want to point out that it's blue bin collection of any size. So if you have a collection once a week, you can have whatever size recycling bin is necessary to support your needs. It includes material reuse and food rescue. Franchise haulers are required to partner with organizations that will support food rescue, the reuse of materials, and make those services available to all customers. It includes other benefits to their customers, such as free annual bin cleaning, graffiti removal, as well as other community benefits. We also found that what is often drives customer rates up are extra services. They come in with a certain rate, but we've seen their actual bills as much as double as all extra services are tagged onto the bills. What we did is we specifically detailed what extra services would be allowed to be charged under the franchise system and set those in contracts. If an extra service is not in the franchise contracts, it cannot be charged by the franchised haulers. Well, how zero waste LA rates compare. To see how our negotiated maximum rates compared, LA San researched over 100 California cities that have franchises. What we found is that when we compared a standard level of service, a bin collected once per week, our rates were well below the average of those 100 cities. We further found that over a third of all the cities surveyed are within 10%, plus or minus, of the rates in the Zero Waste LA system. But again, I think it is important to note that although we compared rates from all these franchise systems, they truly do not compare in terms of the services that are offered under the Zero Waste LA franchise system. As you can see here, the City of LA rates that are shown in green are well within the 10% of a sample of the cities that we surveyed. I do want to take this time to point out that the rate for San Francisco is actually not correct, and it did not include some of the reductions that are available to customers and their rates through increased diversion. And I'll be asking that the staff report be modified to reflect the correct rate. Actually, the correct rate is shown here at 432. That's the rate we were just given by their company, and we'll have it reflected in the staff report. Transition. LA San will work closely with each franchise hauler to ensure smooth transition into the system. The transition and implementation will take place over 12 months and really include two phases. The first phase will begin at contract execution and will include the planning and procurement stage. During this stage, franchisees will begin their procurement of the long lead items, such as collection vehicles and bins. We will develop the necessary account, we'll also begin developing and finalizing the IT systems and how our system will integrate with the customer system. We also will develop detailed account and transition phasing plans. The good news is that nearly 85% of the customers currently being serviced in LA are represented by one of the 7 franchise haulers. This will allow for a very detailed discussion and planning of how those customers, as well as those not represented, will be transitioned into the system. The second stage starts 6 months after contract execution. During this stage is when the franchisees will actually begin their interaction with the customers and to begin to provide customers with the outreach and education. As that is provided and they sign service agreements, those customers will be brought in to the new franchise system. It's anticipated that moving 65,000 customers into the new system will take approximately 12 months. Our goal is that all customers must be transitioned into the system by January 2018. So again, to highlight what's next for us is we're anticipating, with approval of board of our recommendations, that contracts will be executed by the end of 2016. And then we'll begin our direct interaction that I spoke of in mid-2017, with all customers being transitioned into the new franchise system by January 2018. So finally, it's with great pleasure that I request the Board of Public Works approve the number of recommendations, approve the award of contracts for the large zones to Archelian Enterprises, Consolidated Disposal, Universal Waste Systems, USA Waste of California, CalMet, NASA, and WARE. as well as other recommendations that include the recommendation that the City Council find is in the best interest to award one of the exclusive franchise contracts for solid waste handling to Republic Service, an Arizona-based company, for the reasons as outlined in the LA San staff report. And to request the city attorney, in collaboration with LA San, to draft an ordinance creating a special fund for the Zero Waste LA revenues, excluding AB 939 fees. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Myers. So what we will do now, we'll go to, we're planning on taking about a 20-minute break at noon. For people that want to run downstairs or grab something, make a phone call, use the facilities if you need to. And I anticipate breaking at noon, starting at 12:30. I say 20 minutes because it's going to take 10 minutes once we get everybody in to get settled and reseated. So in the time between now and noon, I believe we can get through, or just about, maybe even a little before noon, we can get through the speaker cards from the representatives of the companies that are proposed contractors. So we will start with each of those. A reminder to each of you that you have 3 minutes, and then after that, after our break, then we'll have the speakers from those that do not represent the proposed contractors at 2 minutes each. Mr. Krakov, Gideon Krakov.
That's just for drama. I'm not actually injured. So.
Say it won't be counted to your time. But
President James, commissioners, my name is Gideon Krakov. I'm an environmental lawyer. Always a pleasure to address you in this room, one of the most beautiful in our whole city. I'm a former deputy LA city attorney, working for Client Bureau of Sanitation back then on recycling and solid waste issues 15 years ago, when the board members included Janice Wood, Valerie Shaw, and Ron Lowe. Now, proud to be a part of the team of Universal Waste Systems, or UWS, slotted for the Northeast Zone, which just happens to be where I live, in CD1. You'll hear from Universal's president, Mark Blackburn, his company's family-run for 3 generations, a longtime city contractor, located in CD14, and with a lot of integrity. Universal and its team will do a great job for our city. Now, just a few words about this process. It's been years we have been working on this exclusive franchise. What a success to be here today, generally on schedule. It's been a ton of work. Frankly, surprised that Enrique's hair is not totally gray by this point in time. You have tough environmental standards, a focus on customer service and fair rates, an equitable and transparent bid process with the cream rising to the top, a partnership with labor, and room for haulers and contractors, big and small, like me. And you'll hear from many of those great companies today. So, we urge you to move this forward. Congratulations to your staff, to you, the council, the city attorney's office that's worked so hard on this, the mayor's office, and the many, many stakeholders who made this happen. Let's stay on schedule. Let's start making these big investments for our city and our future. This is a groundbreaking vote today for the city, but not just the city, but for the region, the state, and really, indeed, the whole nation, a true model for sustainability in the 21st century. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Krakov. Mark Blackburn, and then after Mark Blackburn, we will have Judy Gregory.
President James, Board of Public Works, my name is Mark Blackburn. I'm the president of Universal Waste Systems. First, I'd just like to thank all of you from the mayor's office down for the opportunity to be one of the franchise companies. Definitely want to thank the Bureau of Sanitation for all their hard work. 6 years, it's a long time. And I've been through many processes in my life, and I've never seen anything to this level. So I take my hat off to all of them. And I, too, hope that you will go along with what the Bureau is recommending today. I think it's a great program. We're just proud to be involved. I think that what we're going to be doing over the next years, we're going to set a precedent for the whole country, and we're just proud to be part of it. And we want to give you guys 100% to be one of the companies involved. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Judy Gregory, and then after Judy Gregory, we will have Suzanne Pacentino. Go ahead, ma'am.
Good morning, President James and commissioners, and thank you for the opportunity to be here this morning. I'm Judy Gregory. I'm with NASA Services, and I wanted to just acknowledge that one of our owners, Nick Sarkeesian, and our general manager, Jack Topalian, are here with me as well. And I wanted to also say thank you to Enrique Zaldivar and Alex Halou, who've shared tremendous leadership and vision throughout this process, as well as Karen Koka, Dan Myers, and all of the staff involved throughout this. This process obviously is one that's been going on for a while, and they've worked really hard to make sure that it's been as painless as possible. And in the 25 years that I've worked in this industry, I have to say that what they're doing here is working to create a system that will absolutely set the city of Los Angeles apart from all other cities in the United States when it comes to how resources are managed. I was thinking and sort of reminiscing about today, and 2 years ago today I was finishing a 3,000-page proposal. And I say that I can probably speak for most of us in this room that have been involved in this process. We didn't take it lightly. We didn't get here quickly. We didn't get here easily. But we did so with the intention of creating a system and putting things into place that would really set the city of Los Angeles apart and do justice to what's trying to be taking place here today, and to really help make your decision that much easier by knowing all the thoughtful process and effort that went into it. NASA Services has been providing service in the city of Los Angeles for over 60 years. The two owners basically grew up in a trash truck, driving throughout the streets in the city of Los Angeles, and over the years have grown the company to over 100 employees. Like probably most of the companies here today, we are here with the intention of helping support the city in every way possible to become a zero-waste leader and a leader in sustainably managing resources. We've been selected to serve the downtown zone. We're thrilled and excited about that opportunity. We look forward to serving the heart of the city right here, and we look forward to a long and successful relationship with the city. I want to thank you again for this opportunity, and congratulations to the city of Los Angeles for being a leader in zero waste.
Thank you, ma'am. Suzanne Pacentino? And after Suzanne, we'll have Jay Ware.
Good morning. I know Pacentino can be a tough one. Good morning, Chairman James and members of the Board of Public Works. I'm Suzanne Pacentino, and I'm the Market Area Manager representing Republic Services. I've represented Republic Services here in LA for over 18 years, and I'm also a native to this great city, born and raised. Republic has a very rich history in this city and a very diverse work culture that we're very proud of. We have over 33,000 employees across the country and over 1,000 employees locally here in the LA area that they call home. We're honored to have been working with the City of Los Angeles and the Bureau of Sanitation for over 30 years and for over the last 6 years as you've gone through this contracting process. This new franchise system, no doubt, will provide very high customer service excellence, operational efficiency throughout the city, and real high environmental services, and we're very proud to be part of that. We wholeheartedly support the spirit and goals of this newly created franchise system. We embrace this project for many reasons, and for the long list that Dan shared in his staff report earlier, and truly also because it embraces our company's ethics and values. Republic is a leader in sustainability and environmental stewardship, and it's shown by a lot of the investments that we continue to make locally in our infrastructure here and also in our CNG fleet, which is one of the largest CNG fleets in the nation and locally here in LA. And we continue to strive to meet our customers' sustainability and environmental goals. We're proud to be partners with Teamsters Local 396 and ensure that 100% of our LA area drivers are covered under our CBA with high wages and full benefits. We'd also like to recognize Enrique Zaldivar and his staff, Karen Koka, Alex Helu, Dan Myers, and your board for all of the leadership and really the relentless work in seeing this all the way through to fruition. It has been a long process, and like Judy said earlier, I also helped submit our 2,000-page binder about 2 years ago today. So we're very happy to be here. We stand united with you. We will be here every step of the way to help see this process through. Republic has been selected for the South LA zone and the Northeast Valley zones, and we urge you to move forward with this project, and we're excited to be a part of it along with you. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Jay Ware? And then after Jay Ware, Jennifer Blackman D'Souza.
Good morning, Chairman, James, and the rest of the Board of Public Works. My name is Jay Ware. I'm with Ware Disposal Company. I'm the General Manager. We're one of the potential awardees for the Southeast Los Angeles Zone. We've been extremely pleased with the city's process leading up to the board's action later today. We've worked quite well with Mr. Myers, Mrs. Karen Coca, Stanton Lewis, of course Alex Helu, and Enrique Zaldivar, and the rest of the staff. We look forward to working with them to ensure the program's success in the future. Ware Disposal was founded and has become an integrated solid waste management provider here in Los Angeles, and we did in 1968. Our president, Judy Ware, is also in the attendance today because we are a woman-owned business. We're one of Waste Age top 75 providers in North America, and we have our own resource recovery facility where we've just installed new equipment to handle organic waste. While we may be based in Orange County, we have continually maintained a presence here in Los Angeles when we were founded 48 years ago. It's always been our goal to expand further into Los Angeles. This wonderful opportunity provides that for us. We look forward to working with the city and providing the sustainability that the city desires. Ware Disposal's got a proud relationship with the Teamsters, Local 396, and we look forward to working with the city to achieve its goals as part of its innovation, first-in-the-nation type franchise system. Again, thank you very much. We look forward to your support.
Thank you, sir. Jennifer Blackman D'Souza, and then we'll have Doug Corcoran.
Good morning. My name is J.B. D'Souza, and I'm with CalMet Services. I'm here with my partner, Art Kazarian. First and foremost, I want to congratulate and thank Enrique and Dan and Karen for all their hard work and getting us here to this point today. I echo the sentiments you've heard already about support of where the city is going with this program. It's a groundbreaker. CalMet is currently one of the permitted haulers here in the city of LA, and we were awarded one of the small zones east downtown. Although it's a smaller zone, I want to say we have a lot of experience. My father and Art partnered back there in the 1980s, and before that they were trailblazers here in the industry, and I'm proud to continue on that tradition. We look forward to continuing to be an involved corporate citizen here in the city, moving forward with their green goals and initiatives and their zero waste goals. We can partner, and we're going to achieve those. And I just want to say thank you, and we look forward to being a great partner with you guys.
Thank you, ma'am. We have Doug Corcoran and then Greg Lockney.
Thank you, President James. Commissioners, my name is Doug Corcoran. I'm with Waste Management. Before I make my comments, I'd like to acknowledge your staff. I mean, this was a big contract, very complicated, took a lot of work, and I'm just speaking from our side. They did it 7 times, and they're still smiling. I think that's pretty amazing, so awesome job. I told Karen Coca the whole time, I said, there's no way you're getting this thing done by the end of the year. She kept saying, yes, we are. And I said, Karen, I've been doing this 20 years with the city. You're never going to get it done by the end of the year, and here we are. So I was wrong. Karen was right. Thank you very much. So we want to thank you. We're very grateful that you included us in the process, that we're recommended for the 2 zones we got. We're very happy with that. And I guess what I would say is we urge you to approve these contracts, move them forward to the council so we can all get to work and is to improve the whole system throughout the city of Los Angeles. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Greg Lockney.
Good morning, President James and board members. I'm Greg Lockney, President of Athens Services. And again, as my previous folks here said, congratulations to Enrique, Alex, Karen, Dan. What an amazing job. This was a very daunting task and very trying, I'm sure, for them. They did a wonderful job, and we congratulate them and thank them for what they did in terms of providing this detailed staff report. And Athens Services strongly supports these recommendations. Also, want to focus a little bit on the franchise plan as laid out in the staff report. We believe it significantly benefits the city in three key areas. First, it will allow the city to meet its zero waste goals, as well as comply with very stringent state environmental mandates. So with a continued emphasis on blue bin recycling, the introduction of organics recycling, and new private investment in infrastructure and technology, this plan will cement the city's reputation as a leader in environmental sustainability. We firmly believe that. Second, this plan will provide customers with predictable, reasonable rates and enhanced customer service. Price increases will be capped, and new customer service standards will be monitored and enforced by the city with significant penalties for noncompliance. And finally, this plan will mitigate the impacts of waste hauling on our communities. New routing efficiencies will improve traffic conditions and reduce wear and tear on city streets. Clean fuel vehicles will improve air quality, and haulers will make recycling easier for customers by providing increased public education and new and expanded services. So we look forward to continuing our partnership with the city through the implementation of this plan. And as noted in the staff report, Athens is a local, fourth-generation, family-owned company that already is the largest commercial hauler in the city. And we were gratified to learn that upon completion of the very significant comprehensive process which took into account our company's recycling infrastructure, our service and diversion plans, and customer service capabilities, that we received a great score from the city. So we're very appreciative of that as well. And it also demonstrates that Athens is fully equipped and ready to service the franchise zones that were recommended by the Bureau. And we look forward to being a very valuable contributor to the achievement of the city's zero waste goals. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So we have time, it looks like, to get, it's 11:30. It looks like we have time to get through the remaining set of speaker cards before noon. My only request would be for the representatives, or at least a representative of the proposed contracting parties, to not leave. I know that if we take a 20-30 minute break, sometimes you're going to lose folks. But in the event that we have questions that we'll need representatives from these entities to answer, we would request that you stay with us. Let's continue working at least until then through the speaker cards. For the people that are not representatives of the proposed contracting parties, each will have 2 minutes, which is our normal speaking time here in Public Works. We'll start with Robert Nodoff, and then after Mr. Nodoff, we'll have Linda Escalante.
Good morning, President James and other commissioners. My name is Robert Notoff. I am here representing the Los Angeles Alliance for a New Economy as the current director of its waste and recycling campaign, and also am the lead of the Don't Waste LA Coalition. As you all know, since 2010, our coalition has advocated for the transformation of LA's commercial waste hauling system in order to address some of the biggest issues that are impacting cities across the U.S. And specifically, I'm talking about climate change, public safety, and economic inequality. These issues are particularly relevant in our city, which has one of the largest waste markets in the country that currently sends tons of waste to landfills that can be recycled, composted, or rescued to feed the most vulnerable residents in our city. Transforming our current system in the way that we view our waste is a clear path towards making concrete goals that will make positive impacts on our environment and on the lives of everyday people in our city. That's why we're here. That's why we've advocated for the passage of the Zero Waste LA exclusive franchise waste hauling system. The new system passed by our city leaders back in 2014, will not only allow our city to reach its zero waste goal and become a national zero waste leader, it'll literally improve the lives of thousands of Angelinos. Zero Waste LA will improve the lives of residents in communities like Pacoima, where residents suffer from preventable ailments like asthma, by decreasing the use of landfills and lowering harmful methane emissions. It also improved the lives of future generations of Angelinos by increasing efficiencies in routing, limiting the strenuous wear and tear on our roads, and reducing GHG emissions from dirty diesel trucks. And lastly, it'll trigger $200 million in new infrastructure investment and development. So that's why today I'm here supporting the city's recommendation, and that we do so promptly. We have no time to waste. The longer we delay the implementation, the more waste continues going to landfills, hurting lives, and setting our city further behind its zero waste goal. So please, don't waste this moment.
2 minutes.
Don't waste this moment to raise the bar, and don't waste LA. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Linda Escalante, and after Ms. Escalante, we'll have Hillary Gordon.
Good morning, board members, and thank you, President James, for having this. My name is Linda Escalante. I'm an environmental policy advocate for the Natural Resources Defense Council, or NRDC, and which is a founding member of the Don't Waste LA Coalition. As a national champion for the environment for over 4 decades, NRDC is committed to cutting greenhouse gas emissions, cleaning up the air, the land, and water pollution, as well as fostering healthy communities. We applaud the city's commitment to reaching 90% diversion from landfills by 2025, and we are grateful to all the Bureau of Sanitation, the Office of the Mayor, and all those in this room who are working so hard to make this vision a reality. Special thanks to Enrique Saldivar and his entire staff for their outstanding efforts. This is why, since the beginning, NRDC has supported the passage of the Zero Waste to LA exclusive franchise system, which will grant all Angelinos access to recycling and decrease our city's dependence on landfills, which create harmful emissions that poison our environment and our health. Today marks the start of the final steps to complete the implementation of this historic policy, which will solidify LA's position as a national leader when it comes to the protection of our environment and the creation of good green jobs and tackling zero waste. We have no time to lose. We urge our city leaders to move forward on the recommendations made by the Bureau of Public Works regarding which companies meet the highest standards to provide the services in this new system. Winning a waste franchise zone is an extremely lucrative contract, guaranteeing haulers 10 years of business to provide and providing them with an incentive to develop good jobs and state-of-the-art green infrastructure that is needed to sort and process new waste streams. But in order for LA to fulfill its potential as a national leader in clean and sustainable waste collection, Zero Waste LA needs to start on time. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. After Ms. Escalante, Hillary Gordon, and then we'll have Matt Keatle.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Hillary Gordon, and I come to you as a longtime zero waste advocate and a founding member of the Don't Waste LA Coalition. I joined this coalition 7 years ago because I was aware of the great challenge and tremendous potential that was present in the city of Los Angeles. Through our antiquated commercial waste hauling system, tons of food waste and food scraps, and other recyclable materials that could be used to create compost, feed LA's most needy residents, preserve resources, and spark the creation of thousands of new, clean, green jobs were being wasted. With the vision and goal of transforming LA into a city with clean air, good jobs, and recycling for all, we advocated for the transformation of our commercial waste hauling system. Our city leaders heard our cry, and after a lengthy and thoughtful process of public meetings and hearings, passed the new Zero Waste Los Angeles exclusive franchise waste hauling system. Today, we are one step closer to reaching our city's zero waste goal, with the city announcing its selection of waste haulers that have met the very high standards that will keep residents and workers safe and make LA a national zero waste leader. I am here to express support for the selection of haulers made by the Bureau of Sanitation to ensure that Los Angeles' new exclusive franchise waste hauling system is a success. I encourage our city leaders to move forward with this process as quickly and efficiently as possible to ensure that Zero Waste LA begins on time next year. The health of our environment, our communities, economy, and workforce depend on the actions you take today. I thank you very much. And since I have just a few seconds, I also just want to add my voice in great admiration and thanks for all the work that's been done by the staff of LA Sanitation. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Matt Keatle, and then we'll have Angelica Gonzalez.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Matt Cadle. I'm the pastor of St. Mark's Evangelical Lutheran Church in South LA, and we're proud members of the Don't Waste LA Coalition. St. Mark's is a multicultural congregation committed to diversity in our South LA neighborhood for over 100 years. We tend to our community through worship, through youth programs, and through a joint community garden with students at USC. Our values and our Lutheran heritage make it clear that caring for our neighbors, caring for the environment, and caring for the most vulnerable is central to our faith. Under the current waste and recycling system in Los Angeles, our church can't even take simple steps toward recycling and composting. The two primary types of waste our church produces are paper and food waste from all of the bulletins and food programs that we do, and they all have to go into a single trash bin that goes to a landfill. I know from personal experience that it doesn't need to be like this. At home, I have a blue bin, a black bin, and a green bin, making recycling really easy. Prior to joining St. Mark's, I worked at a congregation in Seattle, Washington, a city with an exclusive waste and recycling franchise system. In this system, the needs of congregations and neighborhoods and workers and the environment are met, and rates are transparent. It's a clear and effective system that respects human life and creation. This is why, as a member of the Don't Waste LA Coalition, we have supported the passage of the Zero Waste LA exclusive franchise system since 2014, which will help to divert almost 2 million tons of waste from landfills a year, decreasing food waste and harmful greenhouse gas emissions. Today, we're one step closer to making zero waste a reality for all Angelinos, with the board's recommendation of waste haulers who have met the standards that will protect our environment and the workers who are frontline, keeping our city clean. And so I and my congregation urge you to act with urgency by voting to approve the Bureau of Sanitation recommendations today. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Angelica Gonzalez, and then Elva Yanez after her. Go ahead, ma'am.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Angelica Gonzalez, Conservation Program Manager for the Angelus Chapter Sierra Club. The Sierra Club supports the the Sierra Club Zero Waste policy aligns with socioeconomic outcomes. We're here to support the Don't Waste Coalition. We support the passage of the exclusive franchise system, which is set to make Los Angeles the national leader. The Los Angeles can't afford to fail this system. Now is the time to act and make sure that the new program starts on time, to make sure that the waste haulers in the new system are right on the path to zero waste. I am here again to support. I'm sorry, I'm not feeling well.
Okay, take your time, ma'am. Thank you. Terry Jackson. I'm sorry, Elva Inez, and then Terry Jackson. Is Terry Jackson or Ms. Come on up, sir. Is Ms. Inez here? Okay, go ahead, Mr. Jackson.
Morning, morning, morning.
Morning.
My name is Terry Jackson, and I am a property owner in the Lamert Park area. I own a commercial building there, and I own also some more property around the city as well. I've always been a supporter of the Don't Waste LA campaign that was introduced to me when it first began. We know that doing the right thing is what we want to do up here today, that you guys want to do, and what it mainly composed of, what it mainly deals with is the pay-as-you-go system that's also in place. And this way we can avoid these different type of high penalties and high costs of recycling as well. We also want to be fair with the transparency of the rates as well, and to stay at stable rates because to avoid these set increase, excuse me, to avoid these increase and have set rates for us each year and pay less as we go recycle. That is why I do support the new Waste LA exclusive franchise system for commercial waste haulers. In the new system, I have collectively leverage with other businesses in the area as well. And with the new system, the haulers also will be held liable for fines if they themselves do not as well provide adequate service to their customers. I'm also happy that the Zero Waste LA will require haulers to take our businesses like mine to a maximum recycling and composting, and with educational programs and waste characterization studies.
2 minutes.
I do support it, and I want it to pass today if possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Kevin Riley, and then Daryl Gale.
Good morning to the board. My name is Kevin Riley. I'm Director of Research at a program at UCLA called the Labor Occupational Safety and Health Program. Our program is affiliated with the School of Public Health at UCLA, as well as the Institute for Research on Labor and Employment. And through research and education, our program promotes safe workplaces and protects the health and well-being of workers and their families throughout Southern California. On behalf of myself and my colleagues at the university, I want to applaud the Bureau of Sanitation and the board for moving forward with this proposed system, and in particular for including strong health and safety language in the provisions. The system that we're discussing today lays out some laudable goals in terms of zero waste, increasing diversion and recycling, improving air quality here in Los Angeles, and promoting a broader green economy. But no discussion of environmental protections or green jobs within this industry is complete without discussion of the day-to-day conditions confronting the women and men who carry out this work. Workers who perform waste treatment and disposal face working conditions that are among some of the most hazardous here in the region and in the nation. Workers may be injured by heavy machinery. They may be sickened by hazardous waste or other unknown materials that they encounter. Or they may develop debilitating pain as a result of heavy lifting or repetitive motions. We know the injury rates in this industry are more than twice as high as injury in private industry as a whole, and indeed there are documented fatalities within waste recycling. And the industry maintains a permanent place on CalOSHA's high hazard list. The companies that have been identified by the Bureau demonstrate commitments to abiding by high health and safety standards, to complying with state regulations related to health and safety, and to ensuring workers receive quality training to identify hazards in their workplace and to contribute to addressing those hazards. So we're very pleased with that language, and we encourage the board to move forward with the Bureau's recommendation to protect worker health, environmental health, and public health of Los Angeles. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Daryl Gale, and then after Ms. Gale, we'll have Mr. Spindler.
Good morning. I'd like to talk about the frustrations of being an apartment dweller in Los Angeles. I moved here 16 years ago. My apartment building didn't have any recycling, so I would just take it over, because on the west side, I would take it over to UCLA, or sometimes I would just get it on the bus, the Santa Monica bus, and take it to a big open bin at Santa Monica Boulevard and 13th Street. That was when I was younger and healthier. Then I moved downtown 6 years ago, and I moved into the Roslyn Lofts. They had a few blue bins in the building, and soon after they took them away. I asked the manager why. He says, the building owner doesn't like blue bins. I told him there was a city ordinance that we had to have multifamily recycling, and I even brought the fire department to come speak to the manager and find a place for a metal blue bin, but again, the management that officed in San Diego didn't want a blue bin in the building. Then I moved across the street to what I thought was a very progressive building with 115 solar panels on the top, and they didn't have any blue bins. So what I would do was I would take a bunch of recycling, because I would refuse to throw it away, and I would put it in bags, and I would get a friend to come with me, and we would sneak into the Alexandria Hotel with like
bags of recycling, and we'd have to sneak into the back because we couldn't come into the building with recycling. The security wouldn't let us. We'd wait for somebody to come out the back. And it was very frustrating, and now I take my recycling up to City Hall, and I take it to the blue bins around the building, and I put it on my walker, and I keep getting mistaken for a homeless lady, but I'm shoving it in once a week into the blue bins around the City Hall. And it's just all this time, like 16 years, I haven't had access to any
2 minutes.
easy recycling. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Spindler, and then Don Garza.
That's right. Alice Cooper trash. That's right. This is all about trash. This is all about campaign donations. This is all about carving up the territories like the mafia. Look at the mafia. We got our territories. Hey, I'm going to take the North Territory, and you take the South Territory. Yeah, I'll take the East Territory, and you take the South Territory. And that's good. And then we'll charge whatever we want because there's no competition. That's a very Republican way to go, Kevin. Right? That's right. He's a Republican, the chairman, and he's not for competition. You see what corruption does. So you'll start off okay, you get your little discounts, and they'll just start raising the shit out of those fees higher and higher and higher and higher, and the small businesses won't have any way to compete or hire their own trash service. Absolutely mafia controlled, mafia carved out. You know the number one reason the FBI convicts local politicians? Sewage contracts and trash contracts. Thank you for doing this, because now we'll get the FBI in here. Now we'll get them in here, because now you have single-handedly proven by this map that the territories of the entire city have been carved out into mafia-controlled regions, one choice, one price, and if you don't comply, you'll fine the shit out of them for environmental regulations and mistakes. What a disgusting process that we have in this city.
2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Spindler. Don Garza. And then after Mr. Garza, Fanani and Makepeace.
What a wonderful, wonderful day for a beautiful proposal and a bunch of people who are hiring beautiful, wonderful people. This has been a long time coming. I'm grateful for all the work that everyone has done on these items. One of the biggest things I've learned about all of this is one of the largest providers that's going to be collecting the trash already has a great recycling infrastructure in place, and I'm grateful that you recognize that. And one of the reasons I'm grateful that you recognize that is because as we expand the recycling, there are going to be opportunities for those people who have found themselves without jobs, living homeless, and the formerly homeless. This is the greatest opportunity I've seen in a long, 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 long time for this city to get people work that need work and to keep people working that need to keep working. I'm all for this proposal. I'm grateful. I live at the Rosalind Lofts, and unfortunately for her, it was a difficult problem. But for me, everybody started bringing me their recycling, and of course, I was able to take it and recycle and make a little extra cash because of it. So I appreciate it as we equalize, making sure that everybody is a part of the recycling process. This is just a wonderful future for this city, and thank you for all the work that you've done. My name's Don Garza, and I approve this message.
Thank you, sir. Fanani and Makepeace, and then Lourdes Timotli. Maybe I mispronounced.
Finian, sorry.
Finian,
yeah.
Sorry about that.
No problem. So I decided last minute to do this little demonstration for you guys here. So first I wanted just to give a big shout out to everyone here, because I know it's not just the people who have been named and thanked, but so many people here today have been really working their butts off to make this happen. A special thanks, obviously, to Karen Coca, Enrique Zalvadar, and I also want to thank Greg Good for all the work we did with Lane to start this off, and also helping organizations like mine get ideas into this this RFP before it went out. What I want to do for everyone today is a little test here. We have two different soils. We have a typical Los Angeles beat up dead soil here, and this is a more healthy, organic, rich, carbon-filled soil that's made from having good compost help the soil building process. It's like the probiotic for soil. It can actually help the natural process pump carbon into the ground. So we're going to do this little soil water test. Can you guys see the tops here? We're going to do this pour here. Watch this.
You're not going to make anything explode, are you?
No.
Okay. All right.
Check it out. They pour in here. We have infiltration almost immediately with the soil organic matter full. And if you see here, this water level is still at the top. It hasn't absorbed at all. Look at this. This is dead soil. A lot of our farmlands, a lot of the land in California, a lot of the city land, this is absorbed almost immediately with full of organic matter. So what we're seeing is when we apply compost, it's not just applying the soil on top of the soil, it's actually jump-starting the life force, the soil organisms that help the plants pump the carbon into the soil, and that's how you get carbon-filled rich soil. So Kiss the Ground helped to get the Healthy Soils Initiative for California together by making a film called The Soil Story, and this year we're making the Compost Story. We'd love to get the support of any of the waste haulers who want to get involved. That's going to be a short 4-minute piece that's giving the compost story comprehensive understanding of how compost can really transform our urban environments and our farm landscape. So thank you guys so much. Let's make this, push it forward.
2 minutes.
This is a great, great, great thing, so I want to see it happen fast. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Lourdes Timotle? And then we'll have Myra Soto.
Hi, my name is Lourdes. I am a member of Pacoima Beautiful, a community organization focused on environmental justice in the Northeast San Fernando Valley, who is also a member of the Don't Waste the Lake Coalition. I am here today to speak in support of the Bureau of Sanitation's new Zero Waste LA franchise system. The residents of Northeast San Fernando Valley are particularly aware of the negative effects of pollution because of the close proximity of our communities to waste facilities and landfills. Now it is time to make sure the program begins on time so that our communities can breathe easier and our loved ones who work in waste industry work under safe conditions and come home safe to us. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Myra Soto and then Claire Fox.
Good morning, board members. My name is Myra Soto, and I'm a community organizer at Pacoima Beautiful, a member-driven environmental health and justice organization, and a founding member of the Don't Waste LA Coalition. We know firsthand the importance of reforming LA's waste and recycling system, as these facilities are concentrated in the Northeast Valley, in communities that are already overburdened by sources of pollution. The new Zero Waste LA exclusive franchise system will help protect our environment, neighbors, and our residents that are working in waste and recycling facilities. Many of our community residents already work at these facilities, and we really want to make sure that they are safe and that they are well paid. New and existing facilities should be certified by the city to ensure that they operate according to high standards and are an asset instead of a burden. Similarly, truck yards and maintenance facilities should also operate according to high standards, and haulers should submit locations of these facilities to the city. Pacoima Beautiful was founded by neighborhood moms tired of illegal dumping and litter in our community, a problem that still persists. Franchisees in the new system should work with the city and communities to address issues around illegal dumping and bulky trash pickup. Pacoima Beautiful hopes that the city will act to move forward with the new system and improve the quality of life for our residents in the Northeast Valley and across Los Angeles. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Claire Fox.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Claire Fox, and I'm here representing the Los Angeles Food Policy Council. We are a proud member of the Don't Waste LA Coalition. One of the major concerns that we focus on is food equity in the city of LA and across the state. And although we live in one of the most abundant and bountiful states in the country, which produces immense quantities of fruits and vegetables, many Californians and Angelinos continue to lack access to good quality food. Meanwhile, 40% of what we grow is wasted. So we joined the Don't Waste LA Coalition because we saw that in order to make a lasting change in the way that people see their waste, we we needed to join forces in a diverse coalition that included labor, the environment, and food justice organizations. By working together, we have supported the Zero Waste LA program. We believe it will put LA on the path to zero waste by increasing recycling services through increased food recycling and rescue services, lifting standards for workers, and of course, keeping precious organic resources out of our landfills. We also believe this program will help incentivize the further development of organic compost, which you heard about, which we believe will help revitalize our soil and help communities grow better quality organic food. So it's critical that we take seriously the issues that are currently impacting our environment. And we also believe it's important the city continues to invest resources in renewable and sustainable infrastructure that will reduce our dependency on landfills, ensure that surplus food is getting to hungry Angelinos, and overall promoting recycling and composting. So that's why I'm here today to speak in support of the recommendations made by the incredible Bureau of Sanitation. Thank you so much for all your incredible work. They've been extremely inclusive in the process, as they talked about, and we hope that you will support the Zero Waste LA exclusive franchise system today. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. So that concludes, and it is 11:58 a.m. Your timing is impeccable today. That concludes the speaker portion. We're going to take a 20-minute break, hoping to restart at 12:30. If everyone's back in by 12:20, we'll be seated and ready to go by 12:30. At which time, and I would like just to reiterate that any representatives of the proposed contracting entities, please return after the break. We may have questions. Then we'll begin questions from our board members and any discussion that will take place prior to taking any action. So with that, we are in a 30-minute recess. Thank you, everyone. desk here. So we still have. Hey. He's always. This is Dell, and then this is Jack. That's good. Thank you guys for his help. Good. Thank you for all your help. Yeah. 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 All right. Oh, we got it. I'll see you. Yeah, thank you. Okay. All right, so there's a couple upstairs in my. Yeah. So, we're close. I actually thought this thing would last. So, all right, I gotta get back to my binder. Okay, everybody, we're going to start in just a couple of minutes. We'll resume on agenda item number 2. Ready? Thank you, everyone. Resuming on agenda item number 2, we have heard from the Bureau with their presentation from Sanitation, the representatives of the companies that have proposed contracts coming their way, as well as the public speaker cards. Colleagues, now for questions. Commissioner Repenning. And Mr. Myers, why don't we start with you, and then any of the your team that may be best to respond to various questions, you can assign that. If we have a question for one of the proposed contractors, we'll signal that as well. Commissioner Repenning.
Sure. Hi, Dan.
Good morning.
Thank you for your presentation and all your work to get to this point. There are a few areas that I wanted to kind of talk a little bit more about. The first is the process. The second is organics recycling. The third is the costs and how we're communicating with our customers. The fourth is the transition plan. And the fifth is inspection and enforcement. So starting with the process, I think we're all really proud of the process that was developed to ensure integrity. And I appreciate the transparency here in your presentation today, so that everyone who's been involved and everyone who's been part of the program can hear specifically what the values were that we considered in the scoring, as well as how the decisions were ultimately made once the negotiations began. It was also very encouraging to hear feedback from everyone who worked with sanitation during this process. It sounded like it was a positive collaboration. So I just wanted to dig into a little bit further on the steps that were taken during the scoring, during the development of the scoring process to ensure maximum integrity.
Commissioner Penny, I'm sorry to interrupt you. One thing that I neglected to do, and then we'll get to your questions. I had promised Council District 15 that I would make an announcement as we began this morning that the Public Works and Gang Reduction Committee that was scheduled to be held in here at 1 o'clock, or 1:30 rather, is going to be held in council chambers. So anyone that's in the back of the room, including our security guard, if anyone comes in looking for the Public Works and Gang Reduction Committee hearing and realize this is not it, it will be in the council chambers just beyond the rotunda on this floor. Thank you, Commissioner Penny. Go right ahead.
Well, the evaluation process, as I spoke of, was one that we actually contemplated very early on in the process. As we developed the RFP, such that it was structured with a flow that supported evaluations. So if you look at the RFP, it is actually separated into 5 separate sections, and that's how we planned on getting the proposals back in. As we were developing the RFP, we developed an entire evaluation manual. An evaluation manual that laid out the code of conduct of each team member. It went through the process of us identifying which team members would be on which team, looking at their background and their experience, and how they could really fulfill their roles. The also included that was a tool. So each evaluation team had a tool designed specifically for their evaluation categories. That tool laid out in detail all the different aspects of the proposals that would be looked at and discussed in details. What they did is they actually looked for actual detailed responses. If a proposal provided very clear background, very clear examples of how they're going to fulfill that particular criteria, that is what was evaluated on. The teams, as I spoke before, they met not in secrecy, but only as a team. They did not discuss their evaluations. They didn't discuss their evaluations, Karen and myself, division managers. They did not discuss their scoring with Karen and I. Their scoring and their tools were left to them as a team to work on. They did not move on to a next evaluation criteria for a proposer until consensus was met by the entire team. And only then would they assign a score. And they kept those scores to themselves as a team. And it wasn't until the end of the process that those scores were brought together and combined as a single score.
Okay, thank you. My next question relates to organics recycling. Obviously, there are a lot of reasons to do this, one of which is a state mandate, AB 1826, which was signed into law by Governor Brown in the fall of 2014. Because 30% of the waste in California going to the landfill can be composted, mulched, or recovered, this law, in effect, requires us as a city to have a plan. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, certainly. Organics, as you point out, is identified as the material stream of focus by both the state and actually through our RFP process. We know that right now the 30% organics that are in that waste stream cannot be diverted. It cannot be recycled. There's insufficient processing capabilities throughout the region to do that. That's why the RFP was structured with such an emphasis and focus on organics recycling, and the organics infrastructure. Much of the improvements that are actually required, facility improvements, required in the contracts are those specifically designed to address the diversion of organic material. Organic meaning green waste and food waste. But we didn't stop there. As some of the public came and spoke earlier, it's not just about getting organics out of the trash and turned into beneficial reuse through composting or anaerobic digestion. We have the opportunity to, before the material ever becomes waste in the first place, to actually recover that for beneficial use. That's why the contracts require every single contractor to partner with a food reuse organization. And that partnership will be relayed and worked with every customer where it's appropriate, so the material never hits the waste stream to begin with. So it's really between those two systems that we really allow for the diversion of organics that's necessary for us to meet our diversion goals.
So, and I definitely appreciate the emphasis in the program on food recovery, and have had a chance to talk with some of the great nonprofits who are doing local composting programs, food recovery and delivery to organizations that work with people in need. And I think that is such a great and low-cost way to really meet some of our diversion targets, and that definitely should be the first thing that we try to do. And in terms of beyond that, looking at organics, I mean, it's really a new frontier for the country. And I know we've been talking internally, and I know in LA, for us to really get to a comprehensive program, we're probably going to be looking at a variety of different approaches. There probably won't be one single approach, but we'll need to have a few different solutions based on different communities. And I think that my hope is that as we move forward with the proposers who, are going to be looking at either building new organics infrastructure or plugging into existing infrastructure, that we are able to all work together so that as a city we have one program that comes together really as a whole. And so that is my hope, and I know it's going to be some work to get there, but I know that we can do it. As we look at, and I know that we're asking people to pay additional for a green bin, which, we'd love to not have to do, but I know that we're trying to keep costs low, and unfortunately, the value of green bin contents is not what the value of blue bin contents is. Maybe someday in the future we'll be looking at, valuing compost differently. I know we had a science experiment up here earlier, but we even heard up in Northern California when we were touring their organics infrastructure about some really groundbreaking research that shows how a single application of compost is actually really increasing food and crop production, and also has incredible benefits to soil carbon sequestration. So maybe at some point in the future, in light of climate change, we will, really be valuing compost for all of its benefits. So those are my thoughts on organics. Do you have anything else to add?
Well, just from the organic standpoint, we too value and are looking towards a 3-bin system for all. And we will get there. And this is the first steps, and for us to be able to really have a 3-bin system required throughout the entire city. But we're still getting there. The organics infrastructure is the piece that's going to help us there. And I am excited that the organics infrastructure does include composting. It includes improved composting facilities, as well as other technologies like anaerobic digestion. So we are bringing the myriad of different approaches necessary to sustain organics citywide into the future.
Sure. The composting is hard, given that we don't have a lot of available land in LA.
In LA, it's just probably one of the most difficult things to site. It's very land intensive, and it's often placed where the biggest users are, which is agriculture. So it's often moved outside of the city boundaries. But some of the other technologies, I think, will be located much closer to LA.
Thank you. My next question relates to costs, and I appreciated the discussion and the work that was done in this process to come up with a fair and reasonable cost that includes services that are not currently being provided to some customers, including recycling and including graffiti abatement and other items. A fair number of people are going to be paying more. And so my question is, we know that it makes sense. We cannot continue to not have recycling everywhere in our city. So we know that this makes sense. How are we going to communicate with customers? And I know this is really working with the proposers, but how are we communicating the reason for some people might be a slightly higher cost?
Well, that's going to start with Karen Coca and her team in the PAO's office have already began the process of outlining a very comprehensive outreach approach. It really begins now. It began with a launch of a brand new Zero Waste LA website. Right now, it really contains the process that we're going through. As we work our way through that process, that content will be updated to truly begin to educate the customers on the process. And at its core, it really is making sure everybody understands the benefits that the franchise will be bringing to them. So there'll be a very coordinated effort. Not only that, our partners are our franchised haulers. I actually want to start calling them our franchise service providers, because that's really what they are. they're providing the service. One of the services they'll be providing and helping us out with is the outreach and education to those customers. As I mentioned before, 85% of the customers currently being serviced are serviced right now by one of those 7 franchise service providers. So those service providers become another outlet for us to get to all the customers throughout the city, to let them know long before we ever get to July, when the contractor or a franchise service provider is out there talking about changing services, they will know what the system is, how it works, and what the benefits to them are.
Thank you. My next question relates to the plan for the transition. I think I heard the number 65,000 accounts?
65,000 accounts.
So that's a lot, and this part makes me nervous. But I mean, I know it will be handled. How are we going to be ready to deal with some of the issues that are going to come up? Abandoned accounts when existing providers realize that it just doesn't pencil out for them to continue going to a certain neighborhood. How are we going to monitor these different accounts and be prepared with our new partners and as a city to quickly address any issues that should come up so that we don't have trash not being picked up?
Well, the good news is we've already started. We started with the City of Los Angeles being the first point of contact and our customer care center. Our customer care center has already gone 24/7 in anticipation of the needs of commercial accounts that may not operate on a normal business schedule. 24/7 our call center will be available. We've actually already brought additional staff on into the call center in anticipation as support for the franchise system. Training has already begun. We've already begun the process of upgrading our current call center system to be able to support all the franchise inquiries. That work has already begun, as well as the work on our side for tracking all contractor compliance issues. When these contracts get executed, we will be ready to accept calls from franchised or potential franchise customers. We'll be able to track those calls and identify them and react. So we've already begun that process. On the franchise service provider side, they are our partners in this process. Contractually, they're required to, within 24 hours of us being notified of abandoned account, they need to have a representative out there working with the contractor to provide those services. And to provide those services at the same rates they're currently being provided until they're fully transitioned into the system. A customer doesn't truly get transitioned over until they have received the outreach, the education, the training, and sign a service agreement. Then we can bring them into the franchise system, but we'll be ready to service them at a moment's notice.
So on this, I would just say the importance of really strong outreach, in whatever languages are spoken in the communities that we're working in. And just being ready, I think, at Sanitation, understanding that abandoned account is the responsibility of the new provider, but that we might be faster than they are in some cases, that we get out there and do it, even if it means charging it back to them, because we definitely don't want to have any issues with
Commissioner Ripenny, Dan had mentioned one important statistic that works very much in our favor for a smoother or for sure a smooth transition, and that is that 85% of the current accounts are serviced by one of the 7 haulers. And even if it's not any of the 7, I can certainly speak to the relationship we have with all haulers, all service providers, Dan, that over the years has been built, and we trust and call upon those who are not necessarily franchisees to not disrupt any of the existing service until we have gone through a transition such as what Dan alluded to, so that no one ends up being dropped or abandoned in that way. And I am very confident that not only we will work that out with the franchisees, but including those who are currently providing service and are not going to be continuing.
My final question relates to, we're giving out some very big contracts, and in return we're asking for some very important things. How are we going to be inspecting and enforcing on these contracts over the 10-year period? I know 10 years is a long time and a lot of things change. One thing I've learned being on the board is that, markets for recyclable materials change, and that impacts, how things pencil out. Nonetheless, we are entering into agreements that require a certain amount of diversion. And so it's really important to me that we are being very aggressive about monitoring and ensuring that those targets are being met.
Well, let me touch on that. First of all, from just a general contract oversight purview, the staffing plan approved by this board and the city council truly identified the resources necessary to monitor these accounts throughout the 10-year term. I spoke of the inspectors that we'll have out in the field, 32 inspectors, full-time inspectors, out in the field at all times, monitoring the franchise service providers and providing support to all customers. Specifically to the question of diversion, the franchise contracts have detailed diversion plans for each of the franchise service providers, for each of the zones that they're providing service to. And that will be monitored very closely. Every contract will have a contract manager, and we will get reports on a monthly basis from every single franchise service provider of the material that is picked up, broken down by the material type. Is it organics? Is it solid waste? Is it recyclables? And the facility that it went to. So we'll know in detail from the hauler exactly how material is flowing on a monthly basis. But it goes one step further. We are going to be certifying every single facility utilized by a franchise service provider. There's another team of staff dedicated to that certification. As part of that certification process, we will be in their facilities watching, monitoring, and tracking the flow of material through that facility. In addition to the monthly reports provided by the waste haulers, we will get the same reports provided by the certified facilities. So we'll have multiple pieces of information giving us the ability to track the flow of material from every single franchise service provider in every single zone throughout the term of the contract. One last piece on that is the contract has check-in points. Check-in points where we expect diversion at a certain level at that point in the contract. If a franchise service provider is not meeting those landfill reduction standards, there are consequences, penalties in the contracts for not meeting those landfill reduction numbers.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Repenning. Commissioner Davis.
I think Commissioner Repenning perhaps has asked all the questions, the main ones that I was interested in, but I just have a couple of questions of clarification to get a clearer indication from your presentation here this morning. Obviously, we're at 76% zero waste, and our goal by 2025 is to be at 90%. And we have mentioned that the haulers are intricately involved. Could you explain to me just generally how the haulers are involved in our overall zero waste goal in terms of their contractual agreements? Was there a body of objectives that we put into the contracts to which they agreed, or specifically explain to me how we were able to enforce their cooperation in those?
Well, certainly. I mean, their cooperation to the zero waste goals is laid out in normal a number of pieces within the contract. The first I just spoke of, establishing an actual numeric goal that will get us to our zero waste goals. And this is very important as a comparison to what happens in most franchise contracts. Most franchise contracts, if there's some type of diversion number that's met, it's done by just coming up with and calculating a diversion number, which is also often pulling diversion from a lot of different places, a lot of numbers moving around to meet that. Ours is very simple in its approach and very detailed in its expectations, which is they have to reduce the amount of material landfilled set in the contract. As our partners and as a contract requirement, they are required to outreach to every single customer and continue that outreach throughout the term of the contract. They are required to maintain a certain level of staffing in every single zone for staff dedicated to outreach and education. They are required to, at minimum every 2 years, to go in and perform a waste assessment at a business. And a waste assessment is not where you walk in, you hand them outreach material and go on, please recycle. It's actually going into their businesses, having those specialists understand what the waste generation is, and really working with the customer to identify how they can help achieve our zero waste goals. So they are partners throughout the term of the contract.
Commissioner Davis, if I may add just a little bit, you heard the testimony of each of the 7 companies and their representatives of how excited they are themselves to bring their know-how and their collective knowledge and best practices to bear in our now new shared goal of 90%. Each one of them has a different expertise that they bring to the table. Some have national know-how across the country, some international. Others have innovative ways that they have done here locally. All of that is going to be brought to bear.
Gotcha. Great. In terms of the issue of recycling systems, how does that take place in terms of our haulers and in terms of, I know the constituent who just presented before us raised the issue about recycling and accessibility for a recycling system. How are we addressing that?
We're addressing that. The recycling is really at the base of our program. Every customer will be offered, not offered, they, as part of their base level of service, will include a recycling bin. It will include a black bin and a blue bin for recycling. Every single business will be provided that level of service. That is not provided now. If a customer wants to have recycling as part of their business, they have to go out and try to find somebody to provide that service. Often not easy to do. So just as a base, that will be provided to every single customer. Again, as a partner in this program, it is incumbent upon the franchise service providers to to get material out of the landfill. And they do that by truly working with the customers and providing them with the right level of service. So if we go, so for them to go in and they do that waste assessment, truly understand what a business is doing, identify that organics recycling is really what's necessary. They have the ability to really put together a package, a suite of offerings to that business to reach the maximum diversion at that business.
What about multifamily facilities and how are those being addressed?
In terms of multifamily, just as commercial customers, Blue Bin will be included in their base level of service. The service providers, a lot of what they have brought forward in their proposal and brought into the contracts really center around outreach and education, not to just, a business manager, but actually getting out there and talking with the different residents, multifamily, included, about recycling and what it means to them and how they can help participate.
In terms of costs on our contract, I don't know if prior to this proposal, we've had problems in the city with escalating costs transferred down to the constituents, or the ratepayers in your case is what you call them. And you did mention that we put some provisions in the contracts to better manage that. And did I understand you to say that we have capped that at 5%, or what did you say in that regard?
Yes, there's a number of opportunities for increases, 3. But the main one is an annual increase, and that is capped at 5%. It's 0 to 5%. And it's tied into a number of different indices that are factored together. And those indices have returned about a 2% increase over the last 5 years.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. Now, my observations, I just have 2. One is that I would like to see more activists, and I don't know if this directly impacts you, but the community of those Los Angelinos, all of whom are here, at least the majority of them. I'd love to see more activists from South Los Angeles involved in that part of the business, not your part, but the activism. I'd love to see them coming to present, because when I look at trash in this city and our challenge around managing it, they are a significant part of this milieu around how we more effectively manage sanitation. And so I'd love to see South Los Angeles activists as a part of that community, is my observation. And then my final observation is, from a public administration point of view, often in government we do a private public partnership, which I consider this similar to. I think it is the role of government to look at its economic opportunity in regions, as we have and as you as a bureau always do. And I think that this has been a great project demonstrating excellence in terms of what we can do with the resources that we have in this city. I think that the advantage, perhaps, of being able to identify regions that obviously the mayor's office and the city council decided sometime long before we got here, of being able to identify companies to provide services in these areas increases the opportunity for them to do a more effective and efficient job by being assigned to those areas, which in turn for me creates better service delivery for the residents of Los Angeles. So I think that we are able to, with this project, to demonstrate how effective we can be in identifying these individuals. And I think most of all, I like that you have designed for businesses some smaller areas, because every business is not a big corporate giant. And so I can appreciate from a business perspective at least having 3 and allowing more people to be included. I think inclusiveness is critical in terms of being a big city like us. So that's my final observation. I think you guys have done a great job. And what I do also like is the integrity and the reliability that we can count on in the evaluation process. I love the fact that we were able to do it in focus and not necessarily depend upon issues in some other area. You focus directly upon the businesses competing for that particular area and particular task. And so I think that that is the hallmark of a good system. And so I look forward to this project in terms of what it will mean for a city as large as Los Angeles. I would think that perhaps our competition might be New York, and I don't know what plans that they have, but it is my hope that what the staff and sanitation has done here will certainly put on their minds the potential of what they can do because we have done it first. So overall, I'm pretty pleased with what has been presented, and I'm pretty pleased with what I have heard at the way in which your staff has implemented this process. And I know it's been a long time coming, but I believe overall we will be able to demonstrate to the nation that a big city like ours can not only create opportunities for business on one hand, but we can increase with efficiency and effectiveness service delivery of managing sanitation in a big city. So thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you so much. It will be a model for every city.
Thank you, Commissioner Davis. Commissioner Jacinto.
Thank you, President James. I just had a couple of quick comments before a question, and being relatively new again on the board, it is an absolute honor and opportunity to be present at a time where we're going to change the paradigm of this such important issue here. So I wanted to, of course, thank the Bureau of Sanitation, Enrique, Alex, Dan, and Karen for your incredible work, your incredible diligence over the last. I wanted to thank our staff, our LA San staff, for the high level of internal validity, because the stakes are so high in terms of being able to provide that much staff time and signing NDAs and being sequestered and all those type of media things, high profile things. I appreciate your discipline. Also want to give a shout out to the mayor's office for leading this great and coordinating this effort too, in terms of the importance that it has in our environment. Greg's back there too, so I want to thank you, Greg, for your leadership and all the stakeholders here, not only the haulers or the new franchisees that will be, but also the stakeholders from nonprofits and the food policy councils and Zero Waste Coalition. It's incredible. I had a question, and it's a comment based on what I see. The common thread here is that interface with the business, with the customer. And it's so important in a city that's diverse as ours, is to be able to be diverse in our customer service approach of not only being bilingual, trilingual, but being multilingual, because we understand that many of the businesses in our city are diverse businesses. They speak another language. In order to get the type of participation and cooperation that we need to have in this program, which will be successful, I have no doubt that, like in other cities, that what happens in LA will not stay in LA, that it will get vetted and it will be replicated throughout the nation. But we have to have a very strong system of not only customer care, but customer interface, where languages and cultures and tendencies are important and integral to the success. And that our staff, and it's so great to see that we have almost 18 of the service calls, and we have subcontractors in each of the haulers that have that capacity, that they go out and do an absolute fundamental job about educating, communicating, training and supporting and finding out what are the barriers of limitation of participation in terms of not only 1 million tons, but as much as far as we can go. So I would only ask in terms of that be very, very fundamental. And I think if we are able to do that, a lot of things, the compliance, the goals, the benchmarks, the milestones that we are shooting for will be right on schedule. So that's one statement I wanted to make. And Dan, I wanted to ask you a question about on page 47, among the what's included in Zero Waste LA rates, is this idea of, you mentioned additional community benefits. And I think that with a paradigm-changing action as we are taking now, can you explain a little bit more about what are the additional community benefits that we'll be able to offer our constituents?
Well, at the core, what it is every franchise hauler actually will be required to provide funding towards supporting the community that they're providing service in. So, and that is also set contractually. All of the haulers that have been brought forward through the process got there by really detailing the fact that working within their community and working with the different community organizations is at core of what they'll be doing. So so we have, again, at the core, there will be an assurance that there'll be support of different community benefits throughout the term of the contract through funding. So that'll be available in every zone.
Okay, so let me ask a question on that. That's great to hear that through some sort of process, we'll be able to support proposals, initiatives by the community as a part of this scope of work, as a part of the contract for 10 years and possibly 20 years. And that will be a very clear process that multiple communities will be able to participate. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Excellent. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner Jacinto. Mr. Mars, I have a few questions. I apologize if these were things that you may have already gone over. But if they are things that I just want the record, at least the oral record, to be satisfactorily clear on. Let's start with the Bureau's satisfaction and confidence, and maybe this question goes to Mr. Zaldivar. The Bureau's satisfaction and confidence that the staffing plan in place, and Enrique, I've asked you this question in public before, but never with this many witnesses in the room. I would like to get, again, just a sense of your confidence of the Bureau's staffing plan that has been approved by the City Council for you to move forward for what will be a successful rollout and implementation of the process.
Thank you, Commissioner James. And I must give you a great deal of credit, Commissioner, because early on you were able to grasp the immensity of the task that we were undertaking. And I'm talking, nearly 3 years ago, where you and the mayor's office realized that it was important that we not take a chance and being able to be fully prepared from a staffing point of view as we transition into this, as Commissioner Jacinto said, a paradigm change here, that we had the capacity from the staffing resources point of view. So over a 3-year period, through the budgetary process, we have been able to set up a staffing oversight division, the franchise division that has the only responsibility to see through the successful transition as well as the successful implementation. So we have added a total of nearly 90 staff over a 3-year period with the very skillful leadership of Dan and Karen and Alex of having folks now trained up. Many of them just arrived recently. But we have had the benefit of having had them on board now for some as long as 3 years, some as short as 6 months perhaps, or 3 months. And as we move deeper into this transition and eventual implementation, they will be fully prepared. And so the answer is, I am confident that we have the staff and resources complemented or supplemented also by our contractual consultant.
Thank you, sir. Regarding, Mr. Myers, the base rates, if I recall your presentation, I'm on page 47, again, same page referenced by Commissioner Jacinto. The base rates include the blue bin collection, and I believe you said of any size, correct?
I did.
And is that to incentivize more recycling? Because for one rate, you can get a larger recycle bin, so you can save from the black bin potentially?
That is absolutely correct. It really is at the base. So if you got a bin picked up, if it's a 3-yard bin picked up once a week, that's just the size of a bin. You can have multiple bins, multiple blue bins of any size, also picked up once a week to truly maximize recycling and minimize the impact of rates. So the rate will be established on what that level of service is for the black bin, but inclusive of unlimited size of blue bin at the same frequency.
Thank you, and I thought that's what I heard, and I think that's terrific, frankly. Regarding software communication issues, I kind of lump this maybe, hopefully appropriately, maybe inappropriately so, with billing inquiries. My understanding is the billing inquiries will go directly to the contractor, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Once the rollout, the introduction, the transition to the exclusive franchise system, again, kind of my question about staffing, are we, the level of confidence in the ability of the various languages of the IT departments at these contractors to communicate with the Bureau of Sanitation as they need for complaints and for billing citywide? We've learned some billing lessons in various departments. I would even say countywide with school districts and one of our own proprietary departments. We've learned billing lessons over the past few years. And I just want to make sure that we've learned those lessons without having to repeat them with this process. Could you talk a bit about that?
Well, certainly. The good news is in some of those past lessons, there is a silver lining. And that silver lining is lessons learned. We actually had, very early on in the process, we went and surveyed some of those departments that went through a transition that didn't go well. And we really learned that there were a couple key components that were missing during that transition. One was just the training of their staff and the understanding of their IT systems. And the other was the availability of staff in the field to really go out and address customers' concerns face to face. Both those have been addressed and are addressed in the approval of the staffing plan, the resource plan. We've identified and hired new staffing into our customer care center. We've already begun the training process to bring them up to speed. When I spoke of the 32 customer service representatives, inspection staff that are out in the field, Karen describes them as the helpful Honda staff because they are the face of the city that is going to be out there and working with the customers throughout the process if they have any concerns. We have spent over in excess of the last year developing the IT systems to support the franchise systems. We have already begun work with our recommended proposers. They are chomping at the bit to get started on their IT systems to truly ensure that there's a seamless flow. When a customer contacts the city's customer care center, their concerns or complaints or their inquiries are addressed. And they're addressed, our intake is a service request for an action in the franchise service provider's customer care system for immediate response. That work is already in place and is on schedule to be completed and deployed long before we begin to transition customers into the franchise system.
Thank you. regarding, there's reference in the board report, may have been, I recall, maybe even in the RFP, I think likely, to the categories that are exempt from the process. Would you just summarize, really for the oral record, the categories of waste and even potential businesses that are exempt from the process?
Well, certainly. I mean, from the start, if a resident is being provided service by LA San, those residents are not part of the franchise system. So if LA San is providing service, they'll continue to be provided service by LA San in the future. Construction and demolition debris makes up a very large percentage of the waste, and actually a very large percentage of the haulers operating in the system that is not covered under the franchise system. In addition, there are state agencies or other county agencies have the option of electing to not participate in the system. That's actually set in state statute as far as a requirement. As far as other businesses, there is one subset of businesses, and that's the studios that do not have to participate in all aspects of what's in the franchise system. They're covered under a slightly separate system. There's 5 of these large major motion picture studios. They have to utilize one of the 7 recommended franchise proposers, and they have to meet all of the diversion requirements set forth in the RFP. They just have the option of selecting one of the 7 providers. And again, we're talking a very small subset of the very large motion picture studios. The other subset that is not part is on-location filming. It's actually one of the most geographically diverse arms of the major motion picture studios of taking their operations out into the field. They are not covered under the franchise. But they do have to continue to utilize one of the city's permitted haulers. So there still will be opportunities for haulers under this very small subset.
And is that based on the fact that the on-location filming is mobile, it's moving around?
Yes, it's mobile, it's moving around, it's not a stationary business. Also what happens is most of the material that's generated at these sites wind up being construction debris. So it falls into the exempted category to begin with. So that's.
I also recall. I know that some of the people that are working with organics and with food waste are constantly working with on-location filming quite cooperatively, I would say. The production companies are very interested in working with them on reuse of food after catering services and then proper disposal as well.
Absolutely.
The other ones that I just wanted reflected in the record, medical waste and hazardous waste, as well as radioactive waste and pharmaceutical waste. Those are somewhat self-explanatory,
yes.
But I wanted the record to reflect those.
Thank you.
And then the last 2 questions perhaps go together. I was going to ask you about the review process during the first 10 years and kind of a subset, because I know it's a 10-year contract with 2 5-year renewals. But during the first 10 years, I don't expect this to happen, what I'm about to describe. I think it will be very unlikely. But if something happens and we have what I would call a habitual bad actor, if we have somebody that is falling off on customer service issues and customer service complaints, and we've signed a contract with that entity, how do we solve that problem going forward? So the question is twofold. Is there a review process during the first 10 years, and what of the habitual bad actor circumstance in the unlikely event that occurs?
Well, the answer to your question is there is a mid-term check-in. So at 5 years into the contract, we will be coming back to this board and City Council with a detailed review of where we're at with every single contractor. detailing are they a good actor, are they a bad actor. But I again have to really go back to long before that 5-year process ever takes place, we are getting information and able to track on a regular basis, daily. We'll be able to see what service requests are coming in. We'll be able to see how quickly or if they've been fulfilled. So we'll be able to track on a regular basis the actions of every single franchise service provider. And we'll take actions immediately to address those. The contract is supported with pages of actual penalties, liquidated damages, set forth for not meeting those. So we will be tracking, monitoring, and enforcing the terms of the contract throughout the entire term. If we get to the midterm or any other place in the contract and a contractor is not providing the services, there's the normal remedy process of finding a hauler non-compliance with the contract terms and moving forward with that. So we have the midterm, we'll have just our daily check-in with the haulers, and then the normal process of finding a contractor non-responsive.
Okay, thank you, sir. I don't have any further questions. Any further questions? So what I would propose, colleagues, we may each have some final remarks before any motion is made. So let's go ahead and go through that process, and then we'll deal with proposed motions. Commissioner Repenning?
Sure, thank you. I just wanted to say what an honor it is to be part of this program. It is historic. There are some huge advances that we're making here today, and I really want to thank Sanitation for your incredible work on this program. Enrique, Alex, Karen, Dan. I want to thank Greg from the mayor's office and everyone who's been involved. The folks submitting proposals, you guys put a lot of work into those proposals. We're really happy that you were a part of the process, and so we're taking a huge step forward. On a few items, we haven't touched on here today the progress we're making in terms of health and safety for workers. Obviously, it goes without saying that as a core value in our city that the folks involved in keeping our city clean, whether they're driving trucks or sorting recyclables, should have basic, safe working conditions. And I know that through this process we're going to be making some important advances on that piece. Improving air quality, improved infrastructure, and investment into our communities, less wear and tear on our roads. To me, obviously those are all very important. It's really the big dent we're making on recycling. I'm not sure that there would be a way to make a bigger dent on recycling in any city around the country than through this program in LA. For us to take that amount of trash out of the landfill is incredible. To me, as every time we've made a step forward in recycling in the city has been a new moment to re-educate, retrain, get more people informed. And so I think it's really exciting that we're going to have this opportunity now to educate and inform a lot of new customers about what goes in the blue bin, what goes in the green bin. I would love to really, and I think that doing that, there are some really unique community partnerships, jobs that are going to be created, and I really am hoping that as a city we can just push that as far as we can. I'd love to really figure out how we're going to get people to agree to pay to do food waste recycling, not just large commercial restaurants and grocery stores, but smaller customers as well. So I'm really proud to have been a part of this, and I really want to thank Sanitation for setting this up in a way where I feel extremely confident about moving forward with your recommendations here today. I feel that we've had a very high quality process, And I feel so good about the process that I without hesitation, will be voting to move forward with these recommendations as the best deal for LA customers and residents. Going forward, there are a few things that I would suggest. One is that now moving into a process where the City Council will be having the same discussion, that we make a very clear case about the integrity of the process, so that they also understand that this was a process that was developed thoughtfully, that was administered carefully, resulting in the best a set of recommended contracts that is the best outcome for LA. I would also recommend that we just be ready on all fronts. I think the success or failure of the transition is going to be dependent on the quality of the outreach, and also being prepared for some failures and being ready to respond quickly. And then as well, I would just, as I mentioned earlier, I do want us to be aggressive. We are creating some great opportunities here today for the partners that are being selected, and in return, we want to get everything that we're asking for, not just today, not just next year, but through the 10 years that this contract is going to take place. So with that said, I, again, will be supporting the recommendations, and I just want to thank everyone for their incredible work in getting us to this point.
Thank you, Commissioner Penning. Commissioner Davis.
I want to, as I said earlier, thank the Bureau of Sanitation and our leader, Mr. Saldivar. And overall, this is a project demonstrating excellence, and nothing is done very easily in the city of Los Angeles. But I believe that the time that has been put into working on this project, and obviously 6 years is certainly long enough, and I think that the work speaks for itself. As my grandmother used to say, the proof of the pudding is certainly in the eating. And I thank the Bureau for their presentation today, and it came through that they are well prepared in terms of being able to implement this, and I know they're anxious to get started. And so with that, I am ready to vote, because I always love it when Los Angeles is leading the way. So I thank you for your presentation and your planning here today, and we collectively look forward to moving forward to lead the nation and how to effectively manage sanitation, to achieve a zero waste, and also to be inclusive in the various stakeholders that we have in this city so that others can follow. So I am anxious, along with you, to move forward.
Thank you, Commissioner Davis. Commissioner Jacinto.
Thank you. You know, I too am ready to move forward with this incredible amount of due diligence and work and commitment has been put into this process. And so, like any paradigm, it's not easy to change. And there is a honeymoon that'll begin pretty soon, and we'll have to work out our differences. We'll have to work out how this process is functioning. We'll have to tweak it. And I look forward to the regular reports that we're going to get, hopefully on a regular basis. And they're saying, how are we starting off? What are the things that we are seeing right off the bat in this implementation of the franchisee program that is we have to address? And I have no doubt that this board and this bureau and this department and the city will be responsive together with the partnership with our new franchisees will be successful. That we could even escalate, 90% before 2025, and we could benchmark from there. So I join all my colleagues with the support of this motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Jacinto. I'll close it by saying that many of the people, some of you are here today, maybe most of you are here today, that I've worked with regarding this new policy in the city of Los Angeles know that I had some questions at the beginning regarding a lot of things regarding the process, particularly regarding competition and the rates. And I had the benefit, I guess maybe it's been 2 years ago, of issuing and approving the RFP, the request for proposals. And after the board issued the request for proposals, I went on what might be characterized as a small road show through the business organizations, business leadership groups, and chambers of commerce around the city to talk about the RFP, to answer their questions about the RFP. And it really was the benefit of that project that, one, showed me the great work that was done by the team at Sanitation. The RFP itself, we haven't talked about it much today, and I realize we're beyond that now today with the contracts sitting here. The RFP is terrific. I mean, the amount of work that went into the RFP and the ability to instruct and steer the proposers through the process is frankly remarkable given the size of this task. And for me, who I would say had questions, some would call me a skeptic, it was a real roadmap in getting us to where we are today, which is a readiness to send these contracts forward to begin the largest transition of its kind in the country and what will be a model for other cities across the nation and beyond. I do want to talk a little specifically about both of the concerns that I did have, and I can put these away fairly quickly. The issue of competition. Well, those of you that are in the process, that were in the process, the 7 haulers that were awarded the contracts, the 15 haulers in total, the 8 that weren't, including the 2 that removed themselves from the process, you're aware of the competitive nature of this process. And while we were part of this sequestration, in essence, as the negotiations were going forward, you could feel the air of competition just in side conversations that were taking place around the community regarding this transition. The competition was real, it was stiff, and we got the best product as a result of it. And I'm sure that the competitive nature will continue as the transition takes place, with all of the benefits that will come from subcontracting as well that relates to the contracts that we'll be seeing. On rates, the rate process has been very transparent. Today, in the open market as it was described earlier today, or as some would call the Wild West of the market, it can be a mystery sometimes for some particularly small businesses as to what their rates will be and what will cause their costs to go up. That doesn't exist with this process. We dealt with the competition. We dealt with what I called sticker shock at the front end with the RFP process. And because we've done that, we have the rate predictability that you heard the Bureau of Sanitation talk about during their presentation. And that's very valuable for the business community. It's valuable for property owners across the city, including those that own the multifamily dwellings of 4 units or more. And it's helpful really just across the board. And so have been confident about the rate structure, and it was very helpful to hear from the experienced central casting rates analyst, I might say in a complimentary tone for the guys. You instilled real confidence in your process, and that's very helpful for us as we vote to move forward. So I don't need to go over the vast benefits of this, although I will leave you with this anecdote. I remember when this was during the council process and the debate was happening about whether or not the council would vote to move forward with the exclusive waste franchise system in its entirety. And there's a photo that it's just one of those front page photos that can really shape a debate. And there's been some confusion in the halls of City Hall whether it was 6 haulers or 4 haulers. I think I saw 6. But when I read the documents supporting the action we're taking today, there's a reference to 4. The point is In the 6 that I saw, there were 6 haulers on one block at one time, all trying to collect. And when I saw that photograph, whether it was 4 or 5 or 6, I knew that the benefits of this system would be vast. And not just environmentally and economically, but for public safety as well. And that was, for me, the picture that spoke 1,000 words. And here we are today with the 1,000th word. And I'm going to be the one that's going to be fortunate enough to execute these contracts. So with that, I'll say thank you. Thank you to Greg Good, who was the first person, I think, in the the first person that squeezed my arm. He might have used a Dallas Cowboys football analogy to get my attention, but the first person that squeezed my arm to say, hey, I want to answer any questions you have about the exclusive trash franchise system, and worked with me through the thought process of the policy before the time that I was in City Hall. To the team of the sanitation folks, Dan and Karen and Enrique and Alex, some of the first briefings that we had with the RFP, and when you brought the outreach plan with the inclusion numbers and the questions that resulted from that that we were able to meet, that was very helpful for me as well. Also to the Bureau's briefing leading us up to today's hearing, all of the intricate issues that related to the reasons and the bases for the contracts. The Bureau did a stellar job, but that's just the first step. To satisfy the community, because they don't see a lot of this. The community is going to see the customer service that's coming. And that was the reason that I think all of us had the questions that we have. It's not because we don't have complete confidence in you. We have complete confidence in all of you here today. It's just that we know that with a big, diverse, complex city like this, you're always going to have challenges. But that's what makes us greater as a city, is the challenges that we are confronted with and that we face every day. So with that, I get the honor of making the motion that we adopt agenda item number 2. Is there a second? Well, we've got all seconds there, so that will be the vote. Is there any issue sending number 2 forthwith? No issue for sending it forthwith. We'll send number 2 forthwith. Thank you, everyone. Agenda item number 2 passes unanimously. Mr. Campos, we have. I'm going to give everyone time to move out, and then we have a couple more items.
Yes.
Yeah. We have general public comment. Yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you. Thank you. You guys provided us great leadership.
Thought it went well. You know, I'm sorry to do this. I'm going to break protocol a little bit. Everyone that's on your way out, I just thought of something real quick. There's someone that also should be thanked who worked in an office that may not have been facially part of the process, but our city attorney representative, Adina Hoppenstan, is she still here? You know, when I talked earlier about instilling confidence in a system and a process, Adina was the legal voice for a lot of legal questions, and always with a quick, prompt, and correct answer. So, Adina, thank you very much. I know you weren't listed as Bureau of Sanitation, but I just looked up and realized you weren't sitting there, and you were a key part. So now everyone can go about your business. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you for remembering.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
No, thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
No, yeah, there will be. They walked in and out. Yeah. They stayed for some of the speaker part. Okay, everyone, one final item. We have our general public comment. Leah Renee. General public comment. Leah Renee. Wayne Spindler. Wayne Spindler on general public comment. Wayne Spindler. General public comment. Wayne Spindler. Leah Renee, general public comment. Okay, so general public comment will be closed. Mr. Campos, have we cleared the desk?
Yes, you have.
Okay, then we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.